Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse. This is episode 208. It's a DC Comics podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor's also here.
Yep.
We talk about DC Comics. We got a big list of books this week, which is a stark difference to next week, which we'll tell you about in a minute. And the reason why we're going to tell you about it in a minute because we're handling it differently than we normally do. But coming up on today's show, we have the Green Lantern 80th Anniversary Special. We got Batman 93, Justice League 47, The Flash 756, Aquaman, or Akuman, as I have typoed in my list. Issue 60, that is. We got Suicide Squad issue 6, Justice League Dark 23, Jimmy Olsen number 11. You know, I don't think the list of books was that big, but it's because you two have got these other books that I don't read. And then Batman the Smell Killer issue 1 was this week, kind of a follow-up to Jeff Lemire's Black Label book. We got Plunge issue 4, and the Low Woods issue 6, which is its final issue. So, big week. Big week.
It's I think 11 books, and one of them is giant.
Giant. You say that, but I actually felt a sigh of relief at the end when I realised the last 10 pages of the Green Lantern book was like secret file stuff that I could just not read. I was like, oh.
Yeah, sure, I'm not disputing that, but still, 90 pages is it's sizable.
Aye, but the last one was like, the last story was like right up to the end. It was like the whole 100, barring the pin-ups, but they all have pin-ups, so but this was like, 10 pages at the end. Oh, I'm done. Oh, I thought I had more.
I came back to that because I read that in chunks, and I got to the end and I went, it sounds like 10. What's the last story? And then I was like, oh wait, these are fun. So, however, learning that technically Guy is 2814.2 kind of threw me for a little bit, and I get it because they're doing it in first appearance order. But
Yes.
Yeah,
I always think of John as the next.
Guy had a very brief stint, I believe.
Yeah. We kind of think of him as more the third.
Yeah.
He was the third regular one. He just did a little fill-in job for a little bit.
Yeah. So it was just seeing his official designation on those pages as 0.2 versus John, who I more think of as 0.2. But yeah, you don't want Guy leading your core.
No.
I love Guy, but
No.
Not a leader.
No.
So that's what's coming up on today's show, but a big bunch of stuff. So next week's kind of a weird week because for some reason they've decided not to release any books. Well, with one technicality, the one technicality being the digital edition of Supergirl 42 is actually out next week. But it's one book. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to do something that we've never actually done before. Is we're going to just take the week off because there's no books. So we'll be back the following week. Full guns a blazing. Supergirl 42. Me and Matt will just talk about in that episode. We'll just do it a week late.
Is that the final issue of that book?
Final one, yeah. So.
Yep.
For some reason, when they changed everything, they didn't bother moving that. I guess because it was digital, didn't whatever reason they have for not doing any physical single issues next week.
It almost feels like there's a shipping logistic problem now, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, they're transitioning over obviously fully to the new distributors. So I wonder if this is just a nice week off to make that easier on them.
Yeah. Well, and it helps too that it is the official last day, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I do wonder if that is part of it. When they announced it, they extended the final order cutoffs by a week. So I wonder if by extending it by a week, they were like, well, we've got a week short somewhere now. So
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because that is June 30th, which is the last day of the month. So I'm wondering if that has anything to play into it as well.
Yeah.
Like Connor, I think you brought it up either in the chat or in the thread about it, not really being a fifth week because of this, and now because they come out on Tuesdays, that's going to complicate things a little bit.
Yeah, going by the solicits for the later months, it looks like if the last day of the month is a Tuesday, that's actually counted as week 1 as the following month, so that still counts as the Wednesday, bizarrely.
Well, so then maybe this is just a catch-up. That makes sense.
Of course.
Because they're still just counting that as the week where all the week 1 books come out with the Wednesday titles, even though they're not on Wednesday anymore, but maybe that's just the easiest transition to make, is that everything just bumped forward a day, and that's it. Don't think about it too much, just go with that. But that is what it is. So we'll take a week off, but we'll be back the following week. We won't be gone long, so do not panic. Do not panic. In fact, there should be hopefully a previously in between the two episodes that you can enjoy, at least from me and Connor. So
I mean, I've already read all the books.
You have read all the books.
Just waiting on Pete.
It's a really busy week, though. We got a lot of TV this week. It's the worst possible week for anything else.
yeah, there is. Like Dark came back today.
Doom Patrol.
I can't wait to go and watch it. Doom Patrol is as great as ever.
Yes, which launched with 3 episodes in the first day, so that's been a thing, getting that covered in a timely fashion. But hey, so yeah, but like I say, I got a lot of books today, so we will get into things. Although we're starting with the books, of course, we're starting with the news. Connor's got a whole bunch of things. I don't even know what he's got, but I've got one thing that is it's kind of just a confirmation of what we kind of discovered from the last week or two, is that Leviathan Checkmate has been indefinitely postponed, although DC are promising that it will be resolicited and come out at some point. But for whatever reason, it's been pushed. Now, I don't know if this is maybe they want to tie this into like the ending of Death Metal or something.
I think so, or be tying in with something, because their official lines, it says it'll be rescheduled to align with upcoming DC Universe storylines. So they want to tie it in with something.
I wonder if it's just like whatever the status quo changes are after Death Metal, if they decide they wanted to have it set in that world as opposed to maybe it's easier instead of having this first and then having to transition whatever is left at the end of the story. This was just the easier option.
Yeah, what's interesting is I assume this will mean it'll have to be kind of redrawn from scratch, because the first issue I'm assuming was completed, or more or less, because I know it was originally scheduled for like April, but then obviously that didn't happen. However, when we were coming back, we got the rescheduled dates for things, and the first issue was supposed to be early June. So they were thinking, okay, this will be ready by then, if not done already.
It depends how much is going to change, and how much of what is going to change was even in that first issue. It could be a case of there's just maybe like a scene that needs to be redrawn, because only one scene is affected by whatever the changes are going to be. So
but I don't know. Checkmate feels like it's taking place in Bendis' own little side universe. Like it doesn't seem to be impacted by anything else. So
I wonder if they're kind of going to transition this into being kind of the end game of Bendis' stuff in what he's doing at the minute with because we know he's working towards the end of his Superman run,
right?
And this is kind of related to that in that closer to that than like Naomi felt a bit more removed by Wagner. They're obviously tied in later. So I wonder if this maybe kind of ties into that end game.
And his Teen Titans kind of leans into the multiverse aspects too.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if he is reshaping some of the stuff to fit in.
Alternatively, I could say maybe it'll tie into the end of what he's currently doing, but it could also actually be a bridge to whatever he's doing next. Because it's not like we're expecting Bendis to just be done with DC when he's done with Superman and that. Right. So
no, of course. When I say the end, I mean just of that chapter of stuff, not all of it.
What if Checkmate sets up what he's doing next? Let's say he ends up, I don't know, spins it out into something else. But it sets up, it teases whatever he's doing next. I don't know. I don't know whether sure. I expect Bendis will probably end up in one big character at least after Superman, but maybe he'll do something a bit more niche, like Checkmate, like these ideas.
Oh, I mean, he did that over at Marvel. He did Ultimate Spider-Man for a very long time, and he did his Avengers, and then he did X-Men, and he's done, so he does move from property to property.
The obvious things coming up, although to be honest, these feel too urgent, especially when we think Bendis is probably not going to be done for like a year or so, whatever it may be. But both Justice League is kind of in a holding pattern. Flash is going to new writers soon, but they feel like they both need their new writers sooner rather than when he's going to be done with these things.
I'm pretty sure Flash already has a writer in mind.
Very possible. Yeah.
So that's sneaking up on us. But yeah, Justice League definitely feels like one that I wonder, depending what Snyder's doing, because I feel like Death Metal is going to be the end of his chapter there. That I wonder if we don't move towards the Bendis jail era
story, right? With Justice League during Death Metal by was it Tynion doing that? I think.
Yeah, no, it's Williamson.
Williamson, okay. Yeah, because both of them are very closely related in this event as a whole.
Yeah, because he's doing the Speed Metal one shot, and then he's doing the Justice League Doom Metal.
I wonder if they'll do the soft launch thing after Death Metal, where a lot of these books will get new creative teams. Maybe not renumbered, because DC at least recently have said they're not going to do that. But a bunch of new creative teams on Justice League, on Flash, on maybe have a lot of them at once, and maybe that's going to be roughly when Bendis is in his end game, and we can.
Yeah, we might get a couple of fill-in arcs here or there on Flash, for example.
Well, and it feels like with Joker War, it's going more towards the Tynion era of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder too if we'll get some things coming out of Joker War, which will be probably about the same time as Death Metal, right? Like,
yeah, maybe
more or less. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we get a whole new launch of all those, with Nightwing and Batgirl and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I suspect one of the things Carl wants to talk about is Batgirl.
Yeah.
But since you brought up Batgirl, I just remembered something that we're probably
that was going to be the final thing I took out of these.
We'll build to that, which I was supposed to go back and read, and I totally spaced until now.
I'll give you the details.
That's good.
Okay. What have you got, Connor?
Well, do you like Harley Quinn? Because we've got 2 Harley Quinn stories. One of which Pete, you obviously already know about. You read the book.
I feel like Harley's that friend that I have that I know we're friends, but I don't want to text. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say I don't like them, but I don't need to be around them, a lot. But that's where we're at. Although her friend Poison Ivy, we could be cool. I want to hang out with Poison Ivy more.
Yeah.
So the first one is we've got a new digital first that dropped. The first issue dropped yesterday.
Yep.
It's Harley Quinn, black and white and red. It's obviously a play on the old, Batman black and white stuff that we used to have.
Yeah, with the addition of some red.
With red being the one dominant color that they're allowed to use. There's a bunch of creative teams. Sejic is the first issue.
Mm-hmm. Which is, let's be honest, the fact that it was Sejic and it was set in the Harleen universe is why I read it.
that is understandable. But we've got, Connor and Palmiotti with Chad Hardin doing a story, Erica Henderson, Saladin Ahmed, Joe Quinones. Some of these are doing stories. They're artists first and foremost, and this is their first written work. Quinones, for example, and Maker and Dolfo, I believe, as well. She's got one in here.
This is interesting stuff. I have to admit, I have very little to no interest in reading any more issues of it. Not because the first one was bad, just because I was there for one reason. And...
I mean, honestly, it's 14 chapters. They're $1 each. There are a lot of interesting creatives on this that I'm kind of interested in. I really like the Batman black and white format as a whole anyway. Just these kind of just individual stories. Yeah,
this feels like it'd be a really cool trade later because it was in that same style as what is it, the Dead Earth? That's not what it's called. Hope at the End of the World.
Hope at World's End?
Yeah, there you go. That's
Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
Yes, at World's End.
Yeah.
I watched that recently, and it's not as bad as I remember. Oh, no, that's the second one. Third one still sucks. Moving on.
That was some great music, though.
And there's going to be a new one starring Harley Quinn, technically.
You know what, though? As I was saying, there's been a lot of Disney news. I'll get to this after the thing, but if they wanted to throw Margot Robbie in on the Pirates ride instead of Johnny Depp, I'm not going to be mad at that. I like Margot Robbie. She's a fine actress.
I could give a shit about Pirates of the Caribbean. But anyway, what we're talking about here with Harley.
Yeah. So that's that Harley book every week, every Friday, for the next 14 weeks. Well, 13 now, I suppose. But I'll probably read a bunch of them if there's teams that I'm interested in.
I'll wait till Connor reads it since we do have a time difference. So if I see that you're liking that one, maybe I'll pick that up. But I'm not picking up like I was when I was reading, Superman and Flash and Swamp Thing. So $1's $1. I can take a risk with $1.
It's an interesting thing because there were some articles this week about maybe this digital pushing forward could be leading to bigger changes and yada yada yada. How much credence there is in that, I don't know. Honestly, until they actually start releasing in continuity regular books digitally. Which I wouldn't count the last issue of Supergirl and Terrifics as counting as that.
No, I mean, because those aren't the same format.
On this Harley Quinn thing, the editor of the line did say that they're free to tell. Some of these stories will be in continuity. It's up to the creatives involved if they want to do their own thing.
All right. Okay, you're attacking the exact way I phrased it. Let me put it a different way. Until there's an ongoing, this is still an anthology of short stories. It's still...
Yeah, sure. No, I get where you're coming from, but these articles, they're all getting reposted because look, there's a new book. But these are not new articles. These came about kind kind of when the Walmarts all stuff started hitting, they started making this push, and DC wording was very much.
I think
their press statement. The real point.
The real point I'm trying to make is that there's a clear hierarchy of the real books and then the digital books, and that's not until that's gone. And part of that will be like in continuity, regular books and all that sort of stuff. And that may happen at some point. And at that point, like we take digitally a lot more seriously and cover digital books in a way that we do physical books. But until then, it's kind of this weird side.
Yeah, they just feel like a supplemental material.
Yeah. And for the record, I'll just bet. Did anyone else read the Harley issue?
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid little thing. It's just basically a story about her escaping Arkham again, but it's set after she's left the Joker. And the whole idea is that the therapist doesn't know what the word red means, and I think all of us sort of halfway through the story go, "Oh, she's talking about poison ivy."
Yeah, it's what red means to her and throughout her career, and what it meant when she was Harleen Quinzel, and then when she became Joker's main squeeze, and then finally when she left the Joker, it's been this color that has significance to her, and this is its newest significance.
Trust.
Yeah, about halfway through, if it didn't build to what it did, I would have been very disappointed.
Trust Cedric to actually take the title of this new series and go, I'm going to make that like the core theme of the first issue. It's going to all be about the color red.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's why they chose this to be the first issue.
Yeah. Also, remember when he said he was working on more? I wonder if this is what it was.
If it's just this, I'm a little disappointed because it's good. I enjoyed reading it. But if this is all it is, I'm disappointed because I want more. I want another Harleen-sized epic.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think it's coming anytime soon, though. Unfortunately.
Nah, he's in all his creator on stuff. All right, what was the other new book?
We've got the first of the Murphyverse spin-offs with a Harley Quinn spin-off for October. It's co-written by him and his wife, Katana Collins, with Matteo Scalera on art. This was kind of like a weird accidental leak solicit that they did. So they accidentally put it in the July Diamond previews, which was emailed to retailers, and then they had to kind of take that back and be like, actually, sorry, it's going to be solicited in August's DC Connect for October that this will be on sale.
Wait, did Diamond just intentionally like balls something up because they're leaving now, so we're just going to start making sloppy mistakes?
So, yeah. It was listed as a 48-page, $5.99 comic. It didn't actually specify if it was a one-shot or not, but at that price, I would suspect it might be.
It probably is. If not, then maybe like a bi-monthly, every other month, like 3-issue thing or something like that. But probably one shot.
But I mean, we'll find out when we get October solicits next month. In a few weeks.
In a couple of weeks, yeah. Not long.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll have a lot of Harley in October because we'll have this. We'll have the actual new Harley book #1 will probably be happening in October.
I guess she's kind of Halloween themed, slightly.
I mean, as much as any DC character.
Hey, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there's more people dressing up as Harley Quinn for Halloween. Maybe not this year, because we'll see how quarantines are.
No. But... So, one year at my local con, me and my friend Talon played Harley Quinn bingo, and within, 2 hours... we filled up our card. Every different form of Harley, from Suicide Squad, classic to, steampunk Harley to, it was a refresh from seeing so many Deadpools the year before.
Hey, people love that Harley Quinn. She's a
they do, and
popular character.
I used to begrudge them for it, but again, I've opened up a little bit more.
Yeah, the only time I have a problem with Harley really these days is probably because there's been some really good Harley stuff that I've really enjoyed. My real problem with her now sometimes is when there's like a version of her I don't like shoved into something that I'm otherwise already either reading or watching or whatever. But ultimately, I don't want to watch the Harley Quinn animated series, but people love it. They can have it. It's for them.
Oh my god, the last episode was so good.
After seeing a thing that Connor shared about Charlie's Angels, I don't know if that was actually in the movie or someone just took or the show.
Oh no, it was Dr. Psycho and the also I hate women thing. Yeah.
But it fit really well, so I do want to watch it. I
will just say the Harley and Ivy fans will be very happy with this show, especially at the end of the second season where it goes. It's pretty monumental actually in terms of what it's doing.
I was talking about Doom Patrol being on HBO Max. I was hoping they'd start moving over some of the other DC property stuff, and they haven't yet. So fingers crossed
So what that means, Matt? It means watch Doom Patrol.
I can, but I also
You
have to watch What We Do in the Shadows. So that comes first.
I mean, it was my gift for the little girl going, why not both?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I mean,
I only have enough. I was planning on it, and then I had a fridge emergency. My fridge broke, and that led to a whole comedy of errors.
Matt needs to watch Doom Patrol so we can fall in love with Cliff.
Yes, Matt's going to love Cliff.
There was a whole, and then that started too, where the Scrubs podcast started covering the Brendan Fraser stuff, which I can't. I emotionally cannot handle that. And then that brought someone else going, hey, you love Brendan Fraser, watch. I was like, all right, is this Pete in the Shadow account? Like,
nah, because I wouldn't try and use Scrubs for that. Scrubs is too trash to use for any.
How dare you?
Scrubs
I
is
did
garbage.
borrow your phrasing because someone asked what show was this, and I said it's the hit television series Scrubs.
It's like
just defiled your phrase there.
It's like a hit to the colon, more like. What the hell? No,
Scrubs is fantastic.
Nah, Scrubs is trash. Zach Braff is trash. All right.
You can not like Zach Braff all you want, but Dr. Cox and the rest of the characters, Turk and all of them, they're great.
Nonsense. Was another story, Cara? Did you have another?
Just the Batgirl stuff.
Okay.
So this is this was a story. Megan Scott, who obviously was writing Batgirl probably about a year ago now, that she finished. Which we enjoyed that run a lot.
Yeah, we were disappointed when she left it. And we didn't know the circumstances as to why, but
yeah. And this is a story she shared in the context of everything that's been going on in comics over the last few weeks. We had a discussion on that before, about her as a woman in comics and how she felt. And she said, this is a thread she did on Twitter, and she said, the day that she knew she'd never be able to make it big in comics was the day she bumped into another writer in an airport and learned that he was heading to the Burbank offices for a Bat Family Summit. And this was while she was writing Batgirl, and she hadn't been invited. So she'd only recently started writing it, and thought, well, maybe it was all planned beforehand, and I didn't, and it was too late, and they didn't know to invite me before it all happened. So she phoned the editors and was like, "Hey, can I come? And you don't need to pay me or anything. I'll just come and sit in. They're dealing with my characters." She was working up the street at the time, so it wasn't like they needed to fly her out there or anything, or accommodation. And they still said no.
This makes me so mad.
Yeah, and she said there was at least one more summit that she knew about that she wasn't invited to. And she suspects more than one, given how whole storylines of hers would be thrown out to accommodate a new event her characters were in without her knowledge, inclusion, or opinion. This
is frustrating and in multiple ways, and it's the sort of thing where, like, I think she did a good job of having the writing be strong. We fell away. We all dropped Cecil Castellucci's run.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I also have to say, as far as Castellucci's concerned, that maybe I don't want to necessarily blame her that much for how weird her stories were.
I'll finish this a little bit actually, because there's a little bit more, and then I'll get back to Castellucci after. But she mentions how they had to do lots and lots of revisions without extra pay because of all the stories that were changing and to accommodate.
So it's seeming like this was the year of the villain stuff. So
I suspect so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely is feeling like we felt where they were just wedging stuff in there.
Yeah.
Right?
She said it got so bad that she couldn't afford to work there anymore because the pay was so low because they were paying her per issue. And obviously, when they were having her doing revisions,
she's essentially writing the same issue 3 or 4 times and only been paid for writing it at once. Yeah.
Yeah. So she had to quit because they were essentially not paying her enough to keep working there because of all the revisions that they were doing, which is really, really shitty.
No, I mean you can't really blame her for that, and this is rough, and it's a sort of it's really frustrating in multiple. It's frustrating just in a treatment perspective, where no, Batgirl should be considered a proper part of the Bat family. And should be considered a big enough book that the writer and the creator should be included in the decisions. The fact that possibly at the time, I don't know if Batwoman was still running, but this might be the only woman writer on the Bat books who's just not been invited to these summits. Admittedly, Year of the Villain might be less of a Bat summit and more of a line-wide summit, but still, the point stands.
There was multiple times of this, and it's not like she's the only person that this has happened to. Like we know, not in terms of the not being invited to summits, but in terms of editorial demanding things and them just going, no, I'm good, I'm leaving. Ben Percy on Nightwing springs to mind. Where within an issue of stuff, he was like, right, I'm out. But in terms of these summits being invited, sharing her opinion, that is clearly a problem. And
it boils down to, and it's their business and whatever, but it's just rude. Like, again, I'm not in the comics business, I'm just a consumer, but at the same time, that makes me look at that and go, what the hell's going on in that culture where you don't have the writer that's working on it?
It really
in there.
Part of me really wants to know who makes that decision. Like who's deciding to not have her there, and not even just forgetting to invite her, which is bad enough, but then actively saying, "Nah, even though it's cheap and easy, don't come in. We don't want you to come in." Like
that first time, like she says, she wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt of she'd only just started the gig. Maybe this was all already organized beforehand, and they thought, "Oh well, we'll just invite her to the next one." There's a way you can plausibly explain that to yourself, I think, at that stage.
I mean, is that faceless executives? Is that whoever was in charge of whatever was going on in the line at the time? Is that another creative making that choice? I wouldn't like to think so, but I mean, it does beg the question.
Someone made the choice, and I mean, she doesn't name any names, and even exactly who made those choices.
And even if it is some executive at DC or Warner Bros. Or whatever making that choice, like. The other creators in the room, I mean, surely there's some sense of like camaraderie of like, wait, why isn't like the writers of these two or three other books that are part of this line, why are they not here to also get the lowdown on what's going on so they can actually plan their stories properly? Like, well, why isn't in that meeting? Why isn't at the time a Bat Family meeting? It'd have been Tom King and Tynion, perhaps. I don't know if maybe Detective with him was done by then. I don't know. Timelines are weird.
Was finished,
but why isn't King, who's someone who, from the sense I get in social media, seems to be a really decent guy? Why isn't he turning around saying, and maybe he did, and this is the thing, we don't know for sure, maybe he did, and maybe someone else shot him down.
Yeah, that's why
part of what kind of brought this whole thread up, though, is obviously, I don't know if you saw, there was the pledge that a lot of comics creators, men specifically, were kind of posting this past week of, I pledge to support women and whatever, and this was basically a statement of, a lot of people are posting this, but it doesn't matter if they post it or not. It's more about what they actually do.
Yeah, actions, not words.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I don't know. I feel like the Bat family of books has kind of been a mess for a little bit. And not that they're bad. It seems like, look what happened with Nightwing, right? And then with Batgirl. It's just been chaos over there. And now Tynion finally has, it looks like something where it makes sense that there's tie-ins coming from it versus.
But now you're looking at them and kind of going, well,
I mean,
how much of this?
It feels like there's a direction at the very least. But I mean, because the question here isn't the quality of the books. I mean, that's irrelevant to what we're talking about here. No. We're talking about the inclusion of the creatives in the decision-making process and how bad it looks that particularly the one woman on the team. It was just repeatedly not invited to those events. So
especially because King's book, which was meant to, it kind of was by itself for a little bit. Like
after a certain point, like the stuff felt unified for the first year or two of Rebirth, and then it's kind of veered into just being its own weird thing. And when they did try and make a bunch of tie-ins to say the wedding stuff, which to be fair, that was one shots rather than infecting the other actual books. But
but that's what I mean. Just it seems like the editorial decision. It was chaos where everyone was kind of doing their own thing, and maybe inviting all the writers together that are working on the book would have helped along the way. But it just seemed like they were going to do Scott dirty no matter what, and no one wanted to be accountable for that. Like, it seems to me like they had someone lined up, right? Because I just pulled up Scott's thing. She was on the book for like almost a year, right? She's 25 to 36.
Yeah.
And some of those, like 25 was a story she had in there.
Even if we just look at this from the perspective of a reader who, let's say we don't know anything that's going on behind the scenes and we're just looking at the quality of the stories. Well, we're still looking behind the scenes, but let's just look at the idea of what DC think of that book, right? It makes it seem like DC don't care about that book. It makes it feel like DC have a Batgirl book because they're expected to have one and it sells well enough to exist. but they don't care about it enough to actually try and make it feel included or make it feel important. It's just there to serve, so they don't get angry and complaints that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's the girl Bat book, and that's not the identity it should have. Because this happens to Supergirl sometimes too. I mean, look what's happening right now with it going. Its last issue's digital. It's like they forgot about it.
What gets me mad is that so often with these, not even just like Batgirl, Supergirl, but there's so many books where, for some reason, comic book companies or publishers only seem to be able to focus on so many books at once. Like almost every book is in and out of cycles of just being ignored, and it just exists in a holding pattern until they want to actually treat it properly, treat it like it's important again for some time.
Right.
And even like Justice League kind of has been through that multiple times since we started Rebirth, and I'm not saying it has to always feel like the most important thing, but there's so many books that at times feel like an afterthought. They're just there because the book needs to be there.
I mean, Justice League in particular, when I first started getting into comics and I was going weekly, then it kind of was just the catch-all book where these are just like, hey, you want to read a book with all your, kind of like what Venditti just finished writing. These are kind of inconsequential, but they feel big, so you got to include everybody. And then there was a time when Robinson was writing it, and it wasn't any of the typical heroes. Like you had Dick Grayson and Donna Troy and I'm trying to think, Starman. Like it was just a random assortment of characters being called a Justice League book. And it was almost like they didn't care.
I would say there is an explanation for this, in my mind at least. This is editors, not enough editors, essentially, in that when you've got a group editor for like the Bat books, right, for example, they only have so much time to prioritize. Okay, these books are what I'm focusing on most right now,
right?
And that's why you get cycles. They'll kind of now we'll focus on this other book, and that could explain some. Maybe it's just they're overworked, perhaps.
Let me add on to Lemire this then, that it's actually not even such a big deal that a book is ignored for a while, because that would actually be fine. See if they set up a team, a writer and an artist, and they're let to just do their thing and build a run, whatever run they want to build. That would actually be okay, because you just it'll survive on its own, and they'll build a story up. Whether most examples of this in recent years, if it's something as simple as just letting like Hawkman with Venditti, just let Venditti do his thing on Hawkman, and we can just sort of let that be on its own thing over there, right? The problem is that so many of these books that are left and ignored aren't allowed to just essentially build their own cred by being good stories and building a long run. They are constantly interfered with, or they're shot. They take the artist away because they want the artist for the event, so they'll give them a fill-in instead, or they'll say you have to tie into a thing. So now it's like 3 issues of tying in, like you're the villain or whatever it may be. It's constant, so it's not just that they leave it alone, it's that they leave it alone until they want to like bastardize it or like take from it to help the other thing they're doing. And that leads to books like Batgirl kind of floundering. It leads to books, like these other things that we...
Well, I mean, how long has it been since we read Nightwing?
Well, since issue 50 of Batman, whenever that was. I don't know if that was 50 of Nightwing as well. I can't remember.
And we always keep looking like, how is this still going on?
It's just there, and
and it's just,
and I feel sorry. I feel sorry for maybe not Lobdell, but Jurgens has been on it for a while. Like, I don't imagine what you do with that concept as a writer, where you.
Well, and I think that it's just they have writers that are real adept at that. Like Jurgens seems to be able to just
Jurgens and Abner.
They can just take with whatever they're given, and all right, I'll make hay with this.
They are like masters of the work for hire stuff, really, aren't they? In that sense.
But I want to bring up Venditti and the tie-ins and stuff, and you look at the Hawkman tie-in to You're the Villain, and it's he worked it right into the story. So like there are certain writers that I feel can overcome, but that's not going to be everybody, and they can't just expect everybody. And to go on that,
and overcoming occasionally does not mean it can be done too frequently. Like even if one writer can do it, so there's one crossover coming up, or there's one event that they have to tie into, and like I've got a good idea, I'll make this work. Yeah. Once you do that every year, all of a sudden, like even the writers who are good at it will start just like, I gotta throw my hands up. I guess I'll tie this in somehow.
We're all basically enjoying Kelly Sue's Aquaman, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that year the villain with the Mecha Manta, kind of messy. When we got to it, and we didn't pin that on Kelly Sue. This was clearly a crossover with the Year of the Villain.
Yeah, and the further we get away from that, the more natural the book feels, and feels again. It feels like it's just doing its own thing again.
And we'll get to that when we talk about. But and that's the thing. This is where I want to go back to Castellucci's Bad Girl here. Actually, is it's not just events and you've got to tie into this thing that is the problem, because there's a lot of reports because this is based off of how it was originally solicited and then what we actually got and stuff moving around. Is the story that killed that book for us was that 2-part, whatever it was, Dragon World.
Right.
That was not her plan at all. Apparently, that was forced on her by editorial.
Right.
Last minute. And it's like, well, there's seemingly no real tie-in. There's no connection to anything. Right. So it's like, well, if it's something as mundane as that comes from editorial, then how do you tell what's a writer's idea that's just not executed well, and what's editorial going, you've got to do this.
And when Castellucci first took over, she took what Scott was doing with the Terrible Trio, and it kind of
worked for an arc still.
Right, and it went, and that's, I think, skill to the writer. And then you see when you're trying to jump through hoops for editorial, and this is where, like, our friend Mario would always beat up on DC back in the day because it feels too editorial focused. Like, oh, this is coming from editorial, I don't trust the writers. But, we would disagree. It's hard to disagree on some of these right now. I mean, just, again, not to harp on Nightwing, but that all seemed to come from editorial.
Yeah, and I wonder...
It was almost like someone in charge had a grudge against Dick Grayson and wanted him rubbed out.
I know, yeah. I mean, there were some comments from Diddy in an interview this week, but let's not go into that. But it's I do wonder, like, what was still, like, Castellucci, like, if she ever learned that people dropped the book because of that 2-issue arc, and then how does she feel about that? Like, well, that story I didn't want to do that was forced upon me made people quit the book. Like,
but the problem is DC editorial won't see it like that. They'll see, well, the numbers are going down, time for a new writer.
Well, and again, sometimes I feel like they're trying to do that. If they're trying to, look at what happened with Supergirl. They seemingly don't have a plan in place for a book for her coming out of this. And it's almost as if they're trying to cull their titles.
I'm going to upset Connor here by going with a wrestling analogy, but this one I think does work quite a bit. Is that this really makes me think of, like, these little books that can become something great, or wrestlers who are trying to get over on their own, even though, like, the promoters won't actually give them anything. I'm thinking, like, think of like a Zack Ryder or something like that, who gets over on his own, but then it's just snuffed out by the top ponchos because they want to take everything for themselves.
And then you're punished for getting over on your own. Yeah. Right?
It's not a perfect 1-to-1, but it, like...
No.
Like, some of these smaller books could totally build an audience and thrive, potentially, if they're given the chance to grow, but they don't.
I mean, it partially shows, like, my hipster showing when there's a book that I like that no one else seems to be reading, right? Like, I feel that with Hawkman. I know me and Connor are enjoying it, but, like, when I go online and I'm talking about it, people go, oh, that sounds so good, I should read that.
It seems like a book that people who are in the know, like retailers who obviously read, who get, like, previews, read a lot of stuff, seem to love this book.
Right.
And,
but I kind of
recommend it to people, but people just aren't picking up on it.
Yeah, no, I kind of like, though, that it's my favorite band that hasn't gone big yet. You know what I mean?
Such a hipster.
It is, and I hate that. I really do. But at the same time, I don't want it to become that Batman book that is forcing crossovers all the time. Like, if we got to the point where we get to every book's going to have a Hawkman story, and we're going to see, Superman's perspective. Like, we're going to go to the Kryptonian Hawkman and how he was Kara's teacher or whatever. I don't want that. I want
that story in Venditti's book.
In Venditti, not in Superman, not in Supergirl. Like, I would, and that's why I would feel like the band made it big, and now, it's not recognizable for what I liked it as. So it's just where it's a balance, and again, I don't work in the industry. I don't know anything what it's like. But at the same time, I can look at this and be, well, that was kind of a dick move that they did.
I think the problem here as well is that it's what we're specifically talking about now, because we've kind of veered away from obviously the treatment of women in the comics industry, which is obviously where this started, because that was the big facet of what was going on with Scott. But is there kind of a lot of the stuff we're talking about here where books are getting infected, the smaller books, stuff has been taken away from them, they've been forced out of crossovers, whatever it may be. The problem is that none of these things happening once is that big a deal. The problem is the frequency and how much it's like a go-to thing.
Right.
Like, once in a while is not a big deal for any of the things we just gave examples of in terms of the books doing these things. It's not a big deal if, every couple of years, Batgirl has to tie in to an overall Bat event, right? That's not a huge problem, especially if it's planned in advance and the writer knows that they're going to have to do this for an issue. They can kind of warp around it. But when there's going to be another one 5 months later, which is 5 issues later, they have to build an arc that fits in between those two crossover issues, and then
And on Batgirl, I think is an easy example because we've not long done the Year of the Villain stuff that it tied into pretty heavily in the end.
Yeah.
And then now we've got Joker War coming up where it's got a 5 or 6 issue arc.
Yeah, so it maybe had 7 issues in between, and then of those 7 issues, 2 of them there was a forced 2-parter about this, this dragon world.
Yeah, and there were parts there that we were fine with, like the whole romance with Jason, right? It felt weird, but that story just rushed it. You know, where it just threw it at us instead of you kind of could see Castellucci building it slowly. That
if it was built at a proper pace, we might not have hated the romance itself. It might have actually grew on us because it was teased at us and sort of like given it to us naturally over enough time. But hey, we could probably sit and debate the merits of
that's
editorials and whatnot. But
that's the whole thing. They do need to treat women better when it comes to that type of stuff. And we can vote with our dollar. That's how we can impact things, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't have any other answers for that.
As people who aren't involved in the industry, there's only so much we can do, other than, like you say, not supporting the people who are, terrible, shitty people. Yeah,
and that list it makes me sad as a consumer because now there's stuff that, okay, well you're gonna be an a-hole on Twitter, now I don't have to support your work anymore, so. And which makes it easier to vote with your dollar for the good stuff and for the other creators that are trying to make positive changes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I think you can do to show your support or lack of support for just blanket level decisions made at the top that are doing things like not inviting certain writers to summits. Outside of just quitting everything entirely. Unfortunately, I don't necessarily think that actually helps either because it just sends the wrong message. And
this is where it's cool when someone like Lemire goes and does a creator owned, right? Or they go to Image and do their Image book where they have more control over what goes on.
Or more specifically, Lemire threatens to never work at Dark Horse again if they don't get rid of the person who was accused of really horrible things this week. So
and so if they ever bring him back for anything, he's gone. Right. So it's not like we can get rid of him for a bit.
Yeah,
right.
So
exactly. So. But yeah, so that said, like if Maregood Scott puts out a creator-owned book and it's something that sounds like I'd enjoy, I'm more key to, I did enjoy that run on Batgirl in the Green Arrow 2-parter. So I'm more key. So, that's where that helps. Where back when I was younger and I was only DC, you know what I mean? Like I was more tied into the company. Now it's more, I think, creator focus.
We're not telling people to go buy from this person, even if you don't like their stories, because obviously there's a point where you've got to enjoy reading it still.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think we can't really end this without acknowledging that DC have got a troubled past with some of this. Having kind of questionable people on staff. There was a lot of covering up.
Did you see the story from? I'm forgetting the names. The writers who did Birds of Prey for the start of Rebirth.
Benson's. No, I did not.
The Bensons, yes. Basically, for the last few issues of their run, they were like, oh, yeah, by the way, so we're handing you over to a new lead editor for the last couple of issues. They had no say in this. I think, to be fair, that's how a lot of DC, work for hire in general is done, is you're assigned your editor based on the book and the department.
Right.
But they'd gone from a female editor, and then they were handed to Eddy Berganza.
Which is who I was about to bring up. Yeah, because DC... have a history of sort of kind of protecting him, despite the fact that he was accused of...
Well, that's what their story was basically they were like, we don't feel comfortable meeting him and working with him. And they told the whoever they were dealing with, and they went, well, we'll get back to you. Let's see what we can do. And their solution was, right, so you can do everything just through me. You pass it to me. I'll tell you to Eddie. You never have to see him. You never have to talk to him. And it's like, well, and they were like, well, that's not good enough.
Yeah, that doesn't function.
And then it turned out like they were like, right, just they spoke to someone else higher up, and they were like, just hang fire for a day or two. And it was the very next day where they let him go. But that's again,
good.
Happening.
Yeah, speaking up for yourself, it has a positive, and that's not always positive, and it sucks that it has to be a risk, But I'm glad that it worked out for the Bensons.
Apparently they had a policy with Berganza where he wasn't allowed to have his office door shut when he was meeting with Chris.
If this is, oh my God,
this is a problem enough that he can't be trusted with his office door shut. Maybe he just can't be trusted.
Look, violence doesn't solve everything, but I'm just saying, if you slam his fingers in a door, maybe he won't want to work there. I'm just saying, like, stop protecting creeps. Oh man, that makes me mad. I didn't know that till just right now, that there was a policy for him that he wasn't allowed to, like...
I didn't know about the door thing. I knew there was reshuffling so that he was away from female staff at one point.
They played a shell game with him.
Yeah,
where they did that.
The door thing, Gail Simone mentioned it this past week.
Interesting. So yeah, as it's like who was responsible for keeping him around? Like, was that partially Didio?
Bob Harris.
Bob Harris is probably the one.
And he needs to go too. He's one. Alan, who we used to do shows with Alan back in the day, and now he runs a comic shop in his hometown and whatnot. I remember him having stories like, this is like almost 10 years ago now, about Bob Harris and why is he in that position at DC,
by all accounts, he's the one who was, really good friends with Berganza, and is what ensured he stayed around for as long as he did.
Staying friends with someone like that after those types of
Makes
things.
You just as culpable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. It shows what type of person you are, is what I was going to say.
Right. Company keep. Oh man, that makes me mad. Now I'm heated.
Right. Well, in that case, we'll wrap up this part then and go into the picks. So I'm not heated for talking about issues. Is what I meant to say. Green Lantern 80th anniversary. Issue 1, I guess, or special issue 1, whatever the actual title. Super Spectacular, I believe, is the.
That's the 80th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's old. Green Lantern's an old concept, although it has changed a lot over the years. As
it has.
Obvious.
And that's I do love the Silver Age that both Flash and Green Lantern had this more sci-fi change. That Flash became a police scientist powered by an energy force, and then Green Lantern became a space cop. So that's cool. I do enjoy that. But yeah, this one we get a little bit of everything in this one from all different versions. I'm trying to think if a version of Green Lantern was left out, and I don't think there was.
Not in terms of human lanterns.
No, not of humans, right?
No, there's at least pin-ups of some of the smaller ones.
Yeah.
From more recent times. Although that said, some of the ones who got pin-ups have books right now, which is not true for most of the actual regular lanterns all in HAL.
The only ones who didn't get a story is the one in Young Justice, right?
And First Sector.
Yeah, but
in First Sector, but okay, sure.
And the one from the graphic novel that came out recently, because they get a pin-up as well, so that's why I remember them.
Graphic novel.
Yeah, which is cool they included them, but I would definitely say they are kind of newer, so like I'm okay with them getting the pinups right here, and then if we do another one of these down the line,
sure.
They're not at the stage yet of celebration in terms of
longevity. No, I wasn't complete. If anything, the reason why I even thought about it is because they had pinups. So I was like, oh yeah, you've given them pinups. Even Teen Lantern got a pinup. Yeah. I was like, okay, all right, that's interesting. So
it did make me miss reading this on a monthly basis. So
they did just drop a digital first one that maybe will fill the void a little bit.
It's not the same.
It's not.
I know.
Because reading the Jess and then Simon stories back to back, I was kind of like, I missed the Green Lanterns book.
Yes, as do I. But anyway, this is 100 pages, 10 stories, obviously different mix of lanterns throughout, different creators. We'll tell you the creators as we're going. The first story, of course, is the James Tynion IV. Gary Frank on the art, and this is the Alan Scott story. Which, by the way,
big guns to start with.
They just like between this and Watchmen, like where's my JSA drawn by Gary Frank book? Can I please have it? Can I please have it?
Coming next year.
Well, here's the thing: is that this even kind of like because the train stuff was in Watchmen, this actually feels like a really natural follow on from what we know of his origin from the Watchmen book. Or from Doomsday Clock, sorry.
Doomsday Clock.
Yeah, Doomsday Clock. So what this felt like was both a prologue to the JSA stuff that's coming, and a what's the one at the end?
Epilogue?
An epilogue.
Epilogue.
It feels like an epilogue to Doomsday Clock at the same time. So it is that bridge that's there. And man, this book looked great.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, the art is fantastic. It's him going to the mother of this kid who died on the train. The one that crashed, where you got the lantern, and we see sort of glimpses of his origin, and then eventually reveals at the end, of course, that she realizes who he is when he pulls out the ring, and talks about the light and how her son, she hopes he didn't die feeling like he always did, which is that he was the light in a darkness, a darkness that he felt alone in, and this idea that he's going to keep on, and there's a lot of flame imagery in here as well, and not even just green. There's a great moment of fire.
I mean, the very first panel is a fireplace.
Yeah. So they keep that theme going throughout the story.
Yeah, because there's definitely subtext, right, about the guy's sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's at least how I read it.
I assumed Alan's partner.
Yeah, that's I was thinking too.
It felt like they had a relationship of I don't know how serious, but it felt like they had some sort of relationship. Is what I was getting from this.
Yeah,
and the mother knew about her son.
Right.
Well, yeah, because that's the heart of the story is that she says, "I hope he didn't die alone," but we know he didn't because Alan was there.
Right.
And it was someone that cared about him. So it's interesting bringing in his sexuality like this in like a more traditional version of Alan Scott because this was something that was introduced with the Earth 2 stuff, right? And
it was.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting, sort of like, so we're doing classic Alan Scott, JSA in that time period, but we're still going to keep that element to his character. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and it's different to doing a gay character in a modern book because this is still set in the 40s, I think.
Yeah.
So it's very different, and the way it plays it is different.
And that's also how it felt as an epilogue to Doomsday Clock because there's that reveal about the actor and all of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout. So this felt like a nice tag to that story about him being, coming out and being himself, and he can feel, and it's not just him being the Green Lantern, right? He has that light to show others. So I do like that. It just makes me wonder if we're ever gonna tackle, Jade and Obsidian, they're not big losses, and there's ways to do it, but I wonder where that standing is now.
I could see
some multiversal shenanigans.
I can see them doing something with them at some point. The question is though,
they're adopted.
The question is though, are we ever going to actually get a goddamn GSA book? And if so, who's actually going to be on it? Because
I'm confident we will, with them showing up in the second issue of Metal, with them showing up in Hawkman in the next few months. I am confident that we will get one spinning out of Metal.
And we had the Wonder Woman introduction to JSA and the Wonder Woman special.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like they're building them through these anniversary things.
Yeah, but that Wonder Woman one was specifically supposed to tie into Generations.
No, I know that, but they could always just go back and retcon that to whatever they do with the JSA, whatever comes out of Metal, like Connor's saying. But it does feel like there was an attempt to start seeding the JSA. And not just, you could always back it up. Well, these are also historic interpretations. This is that version of the JSA for the book. So I don't know. Was there a J story in The Flash?
Yeah, I think so.
Long ago.
750. Okay. Yeah, sure there was.
Yeah,
it was so long. It was like the start of the year.
Yeah. So, but no, I really enjoyed this. The Gary Frank art. I mean, he draws mundanity, like them standing on the porch. It's so much more impactful when he does it for whatever reason.
I understand that we will never see a monthly book from Gary Frank again because of this level of work that he's churning out these days.
Oh yeah. It made me miss looking forward to new issues of Doomsday Clock, though, I'll say that much.
Yeah.
But even the title Dark Things cannot stand the light. This idea of like, this guy's happiness that he has to hide. Like, that ultimately that is the light. The light that'll eventually shine. And so there's a lot of good thematic things here they can do with this sort of remix version of Alan mixing the old and the new. And I actually think it's a really smart place to take the characters. So it was a nice. Nice story. It was a good, strong start. It felt like it was important because it feels like this is probably going to be like the Alan Scott we're going to have in a book of some kind later.
It defined Alan Scott going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like just starting with Alan Scott as well in this book. It would have been easy to start with.
Speaking.
Sure, but it would have been easy to start with whoever they decided was the most popular, probably Hal, because DC loves Hal.
Yeah.
So I like this.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Next is the Johns story, Jeff Johns, with Ivan Reis. It's called Last Will, and it's a story about Hal landing on a unknown planet. I'll get to it in a minute.
Yeah.
Where he thinks he's dying.
It seems like.
He thinks he's dying. He thinks he's got so much power left. The ring's telling him that he's got almost no energy. And he's like, "Can you contact anyone?" After trying to locate where he is, and it's like, "I can send 3 messages, and then it's done. The ring's going to be dead." So he records 3 messages. So he sends a message first of all
to the lanterns,
to the core, and then the second message is to Batman, basically apologizing for being a dick, thanking Batman for teaching him humility, and he was always secretly a little bit jealous that Batman didn't need a ring, and that Hal
didn't like that.
Yeah, I felt like he needed a shortcut.
And I knew Matt would hate that page as I was reading.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a page in a story later on that he's going to love because of one sentence that's in it, and I'll just say that I was happy at the end of that story that it ended the way I thought it was going to, and I was pleased. More on that one later. But yes, so no, that's made sense. And of course, the final message is to Carol, and we have to. I love that the message, as he's saying his "I love yous" to Carol, that his mask is fading away because the energy is going from the ring.
Right.
And then he has a moment where he thinks he can't breathe, and he's like, "Wait a minute, I can breathe." And then he sort of walks for a couple of feet and realizes he's actually in the desert in Las Vegas, and he sees the city and goes, "I'm never going to hear the end of this." So it's kind of a joke twist ending.
Yeah.
It's actually the ending to an episode of Twilight Zone that I did not so long ago, the classic Twilight Zone.
No, it is. It's what's that episode?
I shot an arrow into the air.
Shot in the arrow. Yep. But yeah, when he tries to pull the messages back, that's how, man. This is Johns' Hal.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So it felt right, and then it ends with the Justice League kind of pointing and laughing at him. Yeah, the Batman thing went a little bit too far. I think I don't in any predicament see him apologizing to Batman as one of his last things when you got Ollie and Barry,
Yeah, you'd think he'd say something to one of his actual friends rather than that
but
he likes to punch.
I get the logic behind it. Is the idea is that with those guys, he doesn't have this unfinished thing that he has to bury. Whereas with the Batman, he has this beef that he wants to make sure is done.
Yeah,
I get it.
Sure.
I get it.
But it was fun. Like, I'm not mad at it. It was fine. But I got to that big eye roll energy.
It was a fun story. I was into the Johns one. And obviously it's a throwback to, an era of Green Lantern, probably the most important era of Green Lantern. I think most would agree is.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most influential period of Green Lantern since the creation of Hal Jordan. And
it's also the best selling that the book had ever been.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that is what it is. That takes us on to the next story, which is a Sinestro story by Cullen Bunn, which, let's be honest, we see Cullen Bunn's name and we're like,
Yeah, but it's also Sinestro. He did the Sinestro series for a while.
Yes, that's true.
And Sinestro was a Green Lantern, so sure, throw him in there.
And to be fair,
you got Mankey, classic Green Lantern artist.
Yeah, and Doug Mankey's another classic Green Lantern artist that you expect to see in this. So this is basically Sinestro trying to convince a Green Lantern who will otherwise die to embrace fear, and the Lantern doesn't. And ultimately, Sinestro just kind of was like, "Well, the ring's already picking your successor." As Sinestro, he sort of like goes over some of his history about how he discovered fear and how he embraced the power of fear. And that's basically it. It's basically like this is. I mean, it's not surprising because it's the Cullen Bunn story, but definitely out of the three so far, this is my least favorite, just because it felt like okay, the point it's making about Sinestro being this kind of like unforgiving.
It's not terrible. It's just really standard Sinestro 101.
Yeah.
Like
well, it's the
pages.
Sinestro I miss. Yeah. Well, it's the Sinestro that I miss to where he's kind of like his attitude's like, well, having too much will got me into trouble, so I had to embrace fear. Right. And then he gets there and then he's like, well, will you embrace fear? And the Lantern full heartedly he's like, well, no, come on, man. And then he takes care of it.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's the cold calculating Sinestro.
Yeah, because obviously the first story was maybe this sort of like prologue to this potential future. And a nice touch we didn't mention actually is that Tynion wrote. I'd even be down for Tynion writing GSA if it wasn't for the fact that Batman's double shipping and he's probably too busy with that. But
because we know he handles teams well.
Yeah.
So,
but it is worth mentioning that Tynion, I believe, is bisexual, so it's actually a nice touch that they had a writer like that write that story.
Right.
But yeah, this story has nothing to say. Whereas the Johns one's that this kind of like it's a homage to this great period. That's just kind of this doesn't feel like it's a homage to anything. I mean, I don't know if anyone out there's like a huge fan of Cullen Bunn's Sinestro stuff, and it's like this was the.
I'm sure I know a couple people.
I know I read it, but it's kind of just there.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot about it.
Seems no shade to Cullen Bunn, but that seems to be a lot of his stuff.
Yes.
It was there, and I read it, but I don't remember.
It's rarely bad. It's usually perfectly readable, but usually not exciting.
I do remember his Aquaman run, and I was really hoping for Cthulhu, and then it just went away. So I remember that. That was, I think, right before Jeff Parker.
Okay,
yeah, that sounds about right.
Next story is all about Bittersweet, because I believe they did confirm this is the final story that Danny O'Neill has ever written for DC.
And what a story to go out on.
Yeah. It is the Green Lantern, Green Arrow team up story, because of course that was a big, the hard traveling hero stuff was a big part of.
Mike Grell back on art for it.
Yeah, big part of Green Lantern history. And it's Clock King. Oliver's taking him on. The Clock King jumps with this kid, and the kid might actually die or be in danger. Obviously, Hal shows up and saves the kid. And it's basically this story about Hal saying that he's been away for 2 months and 2 days to gather himself, and ultimately the story ends with Ollie taking the advice and going to do the same in the Fortress of Solitude to calm down, because they're getting a little too violent, they're getting a little bit too aggressive and angry, and a bit too emotional with their work.
He went up to read Walden by Henry David Thoreau to kind of have some peace and quiet and to recenter himself. And there's a line that Denny O'Neill, I don't know how long ago he wrote this, but with everything that's been going on in 2020,
it feels like you could have written it like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just for him to say, it's not that I've gone soft or wimpy. I realize that not every problem can be solved with violence, right? And I was like, that's a lot coming from a space cop.
Yeah.
Like
the only critique I have of this story is that the page when Hal's sort of explaining all this stuff to Ollie, one of the things in the art is him like in a waterfall with like sparkly bits around him as he's like letting the water pour. I thought a bit far, Grill. it feels a bit too schmaltzy.
Hey man,
silly.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but
bother me.
I don't hate it. Yeah,
it's relaxing.
I'm telling you, if I had access to a waterfall right now, I'd go do the same.
I think it was more the little like the lights around him.
It's just more. Well, he's on this alien planet, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just what it's like there.
Not much.
Yeah.
But anyway, he leaves Ollie at the fortress to center himself, and yes, and it ends with a quote saying, "Things do not change, we change," which is from the book. So, solid. Obviously, Grell's an artist of a different time, but he's a very solid artist from that time.
Yeah.
And still
stuff has aged really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the last time me and Pete saw him was in Young Justice, where he was drawing the Warlord.
That's right.
Bits for Connor when he was on Scutaris. So it's good that he's still putting in work. And
it still looks as good as ever as well. It's like you see some artists when they get to an older age, they're just like they phone it in, whatever. They don't really need this anymore. It's just because they've been asked to do it for a celebration issue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily need the paycheck, and it's just like, here you go. But this looks as good as Grell stuff ever did.
Yeah. So that's that story. Next one's called Legacy. This is Ron Mars writing with Darryl Banks on art. This is the Kyle Rayner story, which is him. Hey, watch what noises you're making, because I will make up for it when we get to the guy one.
Though, I'm not mad at the story. I do like the story. Again, I like meta stories and stuff like this. So for the guy that he's talking to, as he's pulling the stuff out of storage, and he basically recounts the time Kyle was the only Lantern, and how hard must have that been for you, and all this. It's Ron Mars definitely going like,
yeah,
hey, don't forget me. I wrote the character before John's for a very long time. Don't forget that. So I
it's a period I've not read much of. I'm you know I've seen bits and pieces. And,
that's a feature previously run for sure.
It probably is.
You know, it's it's an interesting story. He's here to collect stuff for Guy because Guy's building a team.
Warriors bar.
It's just the Warriors bar.
The Warriors bar.
He wants the stuff from the original to put in the new one on Oa. Well, I think it was Oa at the time.
Yeah.
Well, there was one on Oa, wasn't there?
Yeah, but I think he redid everything to Mogo. I think that's what he's doing here, is he's picking up that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they even bring up
this was
Simon and Jess.
Yeah, I didn't remember the Warriors bar because I feel like probably just because I didn't read anything that Guy's been in the last several years.
No, but Warriors has been a thing for Green Lantern mythos. Like,
yeah, but it's been but how long since I read something?
Quit hating on Guy, all right? I'm not gonna hate on Kyle here. Let's pump the brakes on Guy there, Pete.
I don't think because Simon and Jesse's book never really went there. If it did, it was so brief that it didn't register with me.
No.
It was definitely around in Hallam Pals, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which obviously
it's where him and Kilowog, not Kilowog, Arkillo.
Yeah,
it's where they bonded.
But anyway, so he's collected the stuff, and the big thing that happens, because he's talking about all the other lanterns, we get a nice line-up shot of them, and all that. Yep. Basically, this alien robot thing, which was supposed to be inactive, turns on, and ends up in a big fight, wrecking everything that he was here for, and, you know, it just kind of ends with this kind of positive message. You know, Kyle obviously wins and saves the day. It talks about how, you know, he's more stronger with friends than he is alone, and why it's okay that there's more lanterns now. But it ends with this kind of message of just saying, hey, it's alright, you know, we'll build something new. It doesn't matter that all this old stuff got wrecked. We'll just keep building stuff new.
He is the torchbearer. I always liked that that's what Johns had done with him when he brought Hal back, is that Kyle was so important because he kept the Green Lantern, you know, legacy alive when there was no core, and it, you know, Ganthet hand selected him. So just the idea of him being the torchbearer, and Mars brings that up here. You know, he carried the light because he had to, you know, and he's fine with being that character. But yeah, it's, you know, turns out Ron Mars still can write a Kyle Rayner story.
It actually kind of nicely thematically ties into that first Alan Scott story in a little way. Just, you know, the idea of like he was alone, he was the only light, and then eventually there was others, and eventually he wasn't alone anymore. You know, I think it makes going, by the way. I will not say no to Joelle Jones, Jessica Cruz pin-up. Just on that page.
I've been looking for a new background for my phone for a very long time, and couldn't find any, you know, worthy. I've looked for a bunch, which then led me to look up Joelle Jones Starfire, and I found a very nice, you know, I don't know if it was a commission.
Why have I not seen this?
Yeah, I'll send it to the chat real quick.
Yeah. How dare you not have shown me this already?
Well, with that said, we'll move on. Creators aren't here at the start, but this is Tomasi's story, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the Guy and Kilowog story, where Guy is telling stories in a bar, referencing stuff from, you know, I think it's Blackest Night's the main one that he's referencing, and then he gets a call to go with Kilowog to report to a meeting, and they're told to go save a couple of lanterns out on this other planet, and it was the journey there. They're hiding on the asteroid and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Not just any lanterns. It's Vath in oh man, what's his name? Izamat. The Rand and Thanagar that they're running. This is basically Tomasi's GLC.
I just couldn't remember what Tulanza was, so I just phrased it that way. But
but no, so it's important. So they're there, and Woggy's super grumpy because you feel like there's something on his mind. Yeah,
he's barking at the new recruits when they're trying to use the gym. He's like, no, I've got the gym for the next 6 hours. Go away.
Right.
this is Kilowog time. But the whole thing's actually a whole ruse. It's all fake because they're all just luring Kilowog out for his birthday. Surprise birthday. The planet that they've went to is actually Mogo in disguise. And basically, you know, Kilowog talks about how he doesn't really like his birthday because it's also the day that his planet died. And but then he talks about how he's got a new family now, and it's this, you know, happy big ending, with them all saying the mantra. So it's a sweet story. It's not my favorite in the book by any means, but
it made me realize, I don't know if I've said this before, but Pete's basically Salic.
What?
Yeah.
How dare you?
You're right, he is.
Yeah, see?
How dare you?
Because he says, where's it at in here? He says, "Don't worry, I got things under control." And then Alex just goes, "Oh, why am I more concerned now?"
Do you know, I'm actually kind of glad that the guy's story turned out to be equal, if not more so, a Kilowog story, because I felt like Kilowog should have a story in this, because he's kind of he's the biggest Lantern who's not a human, right? He's the most prominent alien Lantern.
He's the next down, and then you could argue like Arisia is pretty up there, right?
Yeah, you're into the ones that you can kind of name off the top of your head.
Yeah,
your
but it's definitely Kilowog.
And
I mean, he showed up in that terrible movie, so you gotta.
So did everyone else.
Yeah, but they didn't get named, if I remember right. I've only seen it the one time. So.
I thought this one was okay. It didn't pull me away, but it was a nice, sweet sentiment at the end. So then we have Reverse the Polarity, which is Charlotte Fullerton McDuffie and Crisscross as storytellers with Crisscross on pencils. This is the John Stewart, but it's actually a John and Hawkgirl story, which is actually kind of a nice touch.
Yeah, so she is the wife of Dwayne McDuffie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And being that he was, mostly for the JLA&U cartoon, I feel like this played into that.
Yeah, because obviously, if a lot of people discovered John and even Hawkgirl from the Justice League cartoon, obviously they had a romance in that, so this is something that kind of calls back to that history.
Yep.
But it's them taking on Dr. Polaris, some fighting, some ducking and diving. The art's not bad actually. I thought the art was
no, Crisscross is pretty good.
It's very enjoyable.
I will say it felt the most like an annual story that was just kind of thrown in, and I'm not gonna. I mean, I don't know what Mrs. McDuffie does normally, but the fact that this was meant to honor her husband who's passed and whatnot, I'm not going to beat up on it too much.
Yeah.
I would say I could very much see this as half an episode of like a JLU.
Oh, sure. I think this one and the last one I would both say feel that they're the special / annual style of like short story that you throw in, and they're all right. Yep. They're not bad.
No, I didn't have any problem with this. I got to this one and went, oh, okay, this is what this one is.
Yeah.
It
ends with a dedication to Dwayne, which is nice. But so not bad. And then we got the 4 Corpsmen story.
4 Corpsmen.
Oh, there's the President Corpsman. Sorry, I didn't read that run.
I think you kind of have to for it to work properly with Horsemen.
Yeah. So this is an old man, or like an old man lantern kind of thing, where you've got Kyle, John, and Hal in a bar that they come to every year to talk about the old days, and they're all much older, and they're sort of talking about Guy being late. And so on, and they keep going to telling stories, various ones. Obviously, all of them kind of feature Guy, being naked at one point with Sinestro, all that stuff.
The one I was like, okay, Venditti, you're going a little bit too far with Guy there.
This is the one that reminds me of Venditti's favorite Lantern is definitely Guy.
Joe, that was him distracting Sinestro by being naked.
Yeah.
It's basically Star-Lord dancing to distract the villain at the end of Guardians, and I feel like similar vibes.
Yeah, I definitely, had he not played Star-Lord, if they were going to relaunch Green Lantern, I think Chris Pratt would have been the ideal guy, because he doesn't necessarily have to be dickish, but he can have that chip on his shoulder Star-Lord style,
Yeah.
So
about halfway through the story, I realized what it was doing. I'm like, oh my god, Guy's dead.
A few pages, it's like, this is they're reminiscing about him.
Guy's so dead.
I'm not gonna say that I teared up because I didn't, but it got a little bit dusty.
Oh, I teared up with happiness.
Yeah, of course you did, you monster.
He clearly went out a hero, and this is them honoring him every year. And
every
you
year,
should be more respectful.
Well, and just the lady going too.
Did he go out a hero though? Because I mean, not that I'm saying that he wasn't a hero. No. I'm saying that, like, I assume that he came for these meetings for however long he was alive, and then died naturally at some point.
I see. I don't take it as died naturally.
Yeah, that's why I took it. Yeah.
No, see, I took it as he died in the line of duty.
Oh, really?
I'm assuming he died 17 years ago, and that's why they come here every year on the anniversary, and this is their 17th.
I don't know,
it may be that
the lady the lady taking their thing is like, oh, is guy running late again? So no, I do take it as he has died, but but or maybe she just doesn't want to broach it with them because they know.
Oh sure,
but maybe she knows as well, and it's like
I took it as he was coming.
The same thing every year.
I assumed that he was part of this tradition as well until he died at some point. He was just the first to die, for whatever luck or reason.
That's how I read it too.
Yeah, he died somewhere online.
The way that they go visit his headstone is he died, at least in my headcanon now. He died in the line of duty, and that's why he's the first to go, because he is the first one to rush in.
Wait, hold on, Matt. You've both agreed and disagreed with me. Which one is it?
No.
I'm confused.
So he was still active. Maybe the rest of them weren't active anymore, right? But so they did meet up until a point.
Okay, so you think
in the line of duty?
So you think
he was still going?
So you think the tradition already started, but he was still active for whatever reason and died in the line of duty? Okay, that's very specific. But sure.
I mean, there's no stopping Guy, but like John says, take a Guy Gardner over a Batman any day.
Yeah, I knew Matt was going to love that line. I knew that Matt was going.
And also because they kept going, the 4 legs on the table, 4 houses on the wall, 4 seats in a Mustang GT, and I was just like, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it, and boom, they do at the end, and they hold up the 4 horsemen, 4 which, so good.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Probably my favorite story.
How could Car even get into this? This is all wrestling references.
This was all. It doesn't matter anymore because he did so much of this during Venditti's own run that even not knowing the wrestling context, because this was established with all of them as younger men in Venditti's run, it feels like a callback to that perfectly fine. So it works.
Yeah, so I did like the idea that they have this sort of joke where they realize that after all these years that the tables in this bar actually have like 1 center post and not 4 legs, realizing the thing they've been saying is kind of stupid. But it's kind of a nice message there that they're actually all just one. They're all just one. They're not 4 separate things.
One. Yeah. They hold it up regardless.
That's a nice message.
I also felt that they drew Kyle as Daddy O'Neill. He's wearing a black turtleneck and glasses. So I don't know if that's intentional. Because it seems to be this had to have been in production, right? Before Danny O'Neill had passed. But if you're gonna make someone the old artist, right? Force people to be someone.
And Old Man Hal is a lot easier because we've had Old Hal for a long time.
Yeah.
And John doesn't really look like he's aged. He's aged the most gracefully, He's a
little. It does look older, but he's definitely. Yeah.
He's. They could have cheaped it out and given him the gray hair all the way around.
I think just keeping the buzz cut and stuff, it keeps him looking consistent. So it helps the age process.
So our next story is The Voice, which is the Mirko Tamaki story about Jessica Cruz with Mirka and Dolfo on the art. So I was looking forward to this one because I love Tamaki, who's not been writing enough recently, and obviously I'm excited because Wonder Woman's coming, but obviously I love Jessica Cruz, and I've not been able to read Jessica Cruz in too long, you bastards.
Yes, at this point.
Yeah. So this is a story basically about her like associating with her anxiety, like objects and like is the bad luck I had on this last mission because the last time I touched the knife,
Yeah, I think a lot of this story feels in a way similar to me to the Cullen Bunn one, in that it's very much a Jessica Cruz 101 sort of thing.
Which I think it's well written. I think the art is not bad. Sometimes her face, when she's looking down at the sink there, for example, I think her face looks kind of weird.
That's very manga-esque style all over. If you've read, I've read quite a bit of her stuff now, and it's just kind of her style.
Yeah, I like a lot of it though. I like that panel where she's leaving her apartment and it's just a silhouette with a light.
I think she did quite a bit on Bombshells, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah. So they're fighting. I assume that's a king shark.
One of them.
They change how king shark, like what type of shark he is all the time. I can never keep track. But she makes a giant, kitchen knife to stab King Shark with, which is really dark in a way when you think about it.
Leading Simon to go, damn, she ain't playing.
No. Am I wrong? Was that serrated? Better for slicing and dicing.
Pancakes? Yeah. Which I love the callback to the pancakes.
No, it's a nice, pleasant one. Like you say, though, there's not really get much of a story there, and it's just kind of, here's 101 Jessica Cruz. Hey, if they want to give Tamaki a second book and it's like an ongoing Jessica Cruz book, I'm okay with that. Just do it.
Yeah.
You'd be okay with anyone taking a Jessica Cruz book?
Not anyone.
Well, not anyone, because he's not reading Justice League Odyssey.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean a dedicated Jessica Cruz book though, not Jessica Cruz happens to feature.
Well,
in this
no,
team.
because if Scott Lobdell was writing that, I'd be livid and crying and weeping over it.
And then you'd read it anyway.
Nah.
He's not you with Red Hood.
I like how there was a moment there where he did think about it for a second.
No. So the next story is the Baz story, which is called Homegrown Hero, with Sina Grace writing with Ramon Villalobos on the art, and this is it's kind of 101, but I think it's of Simon, but it's 101 with a bit more bite, I think, because it gets really topical and really political and doesn't shy away from what it's trying to do.
Yeah, you say it feels 101 in the same way that this is still just that core thing that has been the case with Baz since it was introduced.
Yeah,
it goes further with it though.
As subtle as a sledgehammer. I almost kind of wish like Mark Russell, who's a little bit more adept at working the nuances of politics and the characters.
I think Russell tends to satirize it more than this.
Yeah, whereas this felt very broad stroke, which I that's fine considering the state of the world. I'm realizing the world is more broad strokes than we ever thought.
Yeah, maybe we need the broad strokes here.
Yeah, right.
We'll need the sledgehammer to the face again.
Right. So to me, who I've gotten this with Simon a lot, that there's people out there that don't. You know what I mean? So like again, it's not bad. It's just to me, it's a little bit clumsy and clunky.
Yeah, they go to it's like an art gallery showing, but specifically a Muslim art gallery showing.
Yeah.
And there's basically Simon stops a mass shooter who's going to attack. And then goes and like stops like his buddies in his group from doing something even worse. But it's kind of just the mission statement of Simon and his treatment in America and just attacking these just straight up terrorists and sort of saving everyone, and because he's talking about how at one point he says maybe he shouldn't do this, he'll get the core on something. I think it's his mum or his auntie who says no. Like, it's important that they see you do this, that they see you be the hero. So it's got all the right messaging you probably want from it. It's got the and the art's, I think, pretty solid. It's a very different style from a lot of the other art, and the colouring especially is very different from the rest of the book. But
it's very flat colours as opposed to the rest.
It's pleasing enough to the eye, though, I think.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It definitely felt like 100 Bullets, like the same kind of. It's not really flat colors, but I guess they kind of are, right?
Yeah, I think it's noticeable the pencils are not as clean. And again, not in a bad way, but most of the rest of the book features really tight pencils and inks, whereas this feels looser. Just makes it feel different.
But no, it was really good. It's a nice Simon story, and like his aunt coming from Lebanon, I thought that was a nice little touch, because this is an outsider. Yeah, right? She's not. She doesn't live in Michigan with them, so of course she's not going to look at it, and he gets that perspective that he kind of needs.
I think it's interesting that, unlike a lot of these other specials recently, not all of them, because some of them haven't, but a lot of them tend to have a story at the end, which is kind of the current writer on the books teasing their next thing, or like where the main book's going to be going. Yeah. But the bizarre thing here is that outside of Grant Morrison's book, and I guess Far Sector to an extent, but that's kind of the separate own thing. There isn't really an ongoing Green Lantern book that is, heavily into all the stuff where they're teasing stuff here. I mean, obviously, the Alan Scott thing feels like it is kind of a little bit, but maybe a bit more vaguely. It can't necessarily properly commit to what it's doing yet.
And I kind of like that in an anniversary issue. That let's just celebrate the character, and you don't really have to feel like it's got to tie into going forward. So
okay, I mean, yeah, sure, but that's a preference thing. What the point I was trying to make is it's a little bit sad that this one just doesn't have the.
Well, yeah,
they can't do it because there's nothing to tie into. That's what I was getting at. Is it's kind of sad.
And again, no quality towards the Grant Morrison thing, but I don't like that he's taken away a whole area of a DC, that I enjoy.
As someone, again, I'm enjoying that book. When I'm always behind, but when I sit down and read it,
enjoyed
I'm
enough to catch up there, Connor?
I've got like 3 issues stacked behind me, and I'm like looking forward. I'm like, I'll read these. I'm really enjoying binging it, like every few issues.
Yeah, it's especially bad those some weeks where Connor's got like 3 books versus us having like 7 because he's dropped so many other things he doesn't like, but he can't catch up on the one book that he's reading that we don't.
I know. And I am enjoying that book. I have like 3 issues behind me. I just got the last issue, this week. I think it came out I don't know if it came out this week because comic stores are on a bit of a delay over here at the minute. So it might have been last week. But either way, I got it this week. So I'll read it soon. But my point was, yeah, I'm enjoying that book, but I would like a second book where we do other Green Lantern things, like, do a core book alongside it. It's the same thing I say that I really dislike Bendis having both Superman and Action because it completely locks me out of reading both. I would like the option to, there's someone else on one of them that I can try.
I wish I knew back when you started saying that, back when it was announced for books. Like, I started a counter. Because I feel like we'd be up to like at least 50 by now. You saying almost that exact thing where I wish Bendis wasn't on both books because then I'd get to read one and not...
Well, that's how strong I feel about it. I would really like to read Superman as one of the pillars of DC.
I understand it. I'm not arguing with him on this, because I get it. So...
I'm not taking it. Yeah, I don't want to take it away from people who are enjoying it. It's just you can have your book, and I'll have a different one.
I just feel it is a little bit different though, Connor, because whereas Bendis has 2 books, right? They just got rid of the Green Lanterns book. It would have been fine if they had just got rid of Hal and Pals and made that Morrison's Green Lantern with Sharp, and left Green Lanterns alone.
I still don't understand why we don't have 2.
And to be fair with Superman, like there's so many other places with Superman as well. Like you're in, Superman, Batman, or Batman, Superman, more accurate. Obviously, he's in Justice League. He's in, he's in Lois Lane. Superman pops up in a lot of places. Typically,
not so much with the lanterns. You know, even Jess and Odyssey. That's really about it. And then John in
Justice League. Yeah,
Justice League. What are Kyle and Guy up to? What's Simon up to? Like,
I can't remember the last time we saw Simon anywhere. Not counting this issue, obviously.
Well, it was Green Lanterns. It was that last issue.
Has he not been in anything?
Oh no, he's popped up for brief appearances since. We've definitely seen him since then.
I don't remember.
I don't remember him.
And the reason why I know that we definitely did is because I remember thinking when we saw him, oh hey, it's weird that this is the only time I've seen Simon since that book ended. So it's definitely happened once or twice, but admittedly it's been very few and far between in some small ways. So so that's the Green Lantern special though. Yeah, honestly, one of the better overall specials, I think. I don't know if there was any stinkers in here. Nothing that stuck out as being this.
There was only 2 or 3 that felt like, oh, this is just a standard one of these stories, and most of them felt like they had a nice point to them.
I guess I'll ask the question, Matt. What was your favorite out of the 10 stories?
Do you have to ask?
This is the Horseman.
It's the Horseman followed closely by the Alan Scott story. That one was super solid.
Yeah, it makes it the Alan Scott one. Partly because it's the Gary Frank art, partly because I love the sort of bringing the sexuality into the old version of the character, but also the tease of a future JSA. Like, everything about it just was fire and it was exciting. What's your favorite, Connor?
Yeah, it's probably the Alan Scott one. Let's be honest.
Yeah, so it's a shame that it peaked right at the start, but
But it didn't disappoint me as it went on. It wasn't like this is so much better and everything else pales in comparison. It was like, because we had that straight into Jeff Johns. Yeah. And then I really like the Venditti one later, and the Tomasi one I think I liked more than Pete did as well.
Yeah, you just reminded me because it was all this stuff from Lanterns Past. They bring up one of my favorite Green Lantern stories, which was from right before Tomasi took over. Dave Gibbons was writing, and it's called The Corpse, where it's Corpse. They bring up the characters in the back matter, right, and the secret files kind of deal. And so I was like, oh man, so they're officially canon now, because that was always kind of that happened before. We're not going to talk about it anymore. So that means they're out there somewhere. So writers, once Morrison's done, it wouldn't surprise me if Morrison ends up throwing them in there, and then it's going to make me read it.
He might have done already, and I just don't recognize them because I've not read that stuff.
Morrison's going to do a season 3, Matt. Just accept that you're not getting Green Lantern for another 4 years. It's fine.
I'll just go back and read. I'll pull my back issues out, and I'll just go back and read. It's fine. There's plenty. But yeah, when you were saying that, have the Johns, they had this, and I was like, oh yeah. Even though there wasn't a story about that, they included those characters in.
Hey Matt, if we're lucky, maybe all the relaunching after Death Metal ends, they'll do to his Green Lantern what happened to Batman Incorporated, where it kind of gets put to the side. It'll finish as its own separate thing.
Yeah.
But
it already is its own separate thing.
But even more so, like
it'll allow us to have a Green Lantern book back. And at this point, if it is just Jess or Simon or just John,
that could be
fine.
Whoever. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be my favorite. It doesn't be Guy or Hal or Kyle.
The simplest thing to do is just give us a core book and just rotate through. Do a couple issues of this one, an arc of them.
Right.
Just treat it as a genuine ensemble. Do a thing where, it's like you've got a cast of like half a dozen or so characters, and sometimes...
and before the comments go wild with Far Sector's a Green Lantern book. Yeah, it's not just the Green Lantern thing. I like my
characters
section, right? That section of the universe, dealing
with the different core stuff and
yeah.
Oh, Far Sector's a very good book, but it's not actually scratching the Green Lantern itch itself.
No, it's a great book, but I wouldn't say it's a Green Lantern book.
I am very excited to see her integrate with the wider Green Lantern universe after that book.
Oh yeah, if they do that, then great.
They threw her in the Secret Files as well, so there's definitely more going on with it. She is a Lantern, but really not. You know what I mean? Like there's some weird. Because did she have a designate? I didn't see. I have to look this up now. Her sector designate.
No, because she was new and she just got shipped off to that distant.
No,
planet.
I know, but it says sector. Yeah, no, it's just Joe Mullion.
So it's not
Kelly
like a number.
Yeah, sector unknown.
Right, and sector with Teen Lantern in A.
That makes sense. Yeah. Just, not actually a member of the Corps.
Yeah, she jerry-rigged an old battery.
Right. Well, and seeing some of these other ones too, like learning that Rand and Thanagar are in Sector 2682. That's something I didn't know off the top of my head.
That's a bit of trivia Matt's going to memorize, so that whenever it comes up, he's going to know when.
He already has.
We're Rand and Thanagar.
And then, and then just the certain characters like I forgot about.
Actually,
like Anu.
That was a touch that I think I liked. Is I think it's in the Sinestro story. The Lantern is dying. His sector was like 1961, which that was Hal Jordan's first year, right? 1961.
Yeah, 1961. Yeah.
Nice touch. Very convenient that there's 4 digits, so they can put any years when they want to if they want to reference something.
It is useful, isn't it?
So there you go. I guess we'll rate the book then. Matt, what are you giving Green Lantern's super spectacular 80th anniversary, 100-page mammoth beast?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor.
Yeah, I'll probably just give it the 8 as well.
I will also give it the 8. If it was a standalone thing with that Alan Scott story, it'd probably be a 9. But obviously you have to balance things out with everything else.
Right.
So cool. All right. So Batman issue 93. James Tynion the Fourth, with Guillem March and Javier Fernandez on a few pages at least. Not a lot.
Not enough.
Not enough. Yes, that's the key thing there.
On Twitter, I challenged Connor. He said that he's gonna start dropping stuff, and I told him do it. So I had the book narrowed. There's 3 of them. So I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna guess.
Oh, so specifically, Connor said he had one in mind. So you're trying to guess which one it is.
I'm trying to guess which one it is.
Okay, and you want to guess as we get to each book if it's this one.
Right. But then that'll bring the process of elimination down. So I had it narrowed down to 3.
Okay.
Right? This is one of them.
Hold on. Here's what we do. Say what the 3 are, and then you have to pick which one you actually think it is here. And then at the end of whatever review, so at the end of this review, right, Connor, when he's giving his rating, can say if he is or isn't dropping it. And then, so he'll just do that at the end of the one that he's actually dropping. He'll tell you.
Well, I'll tell you, the one that I was considering dropping, I did drop. I didn't read it. So it won't be when I give my rating.
It'll be the start. It'll be right at the start then.
Yeah. All right. So the 3 that I had it narrowed down to was Batman, Aquaman, and Justice League. I'm gonna remove Justice League from that.
I hope it's none of those 3, just for this to be funnier.
Just looking at the other books, I don't think he's not reading Flash. He already dropped Flash.
Justice League Dark. It's just Ram V now. He
loves Justice League Dark. Jimmy Olsen has one issue left. Can't see him dropping that before.
that would be
a twist.
By my standards, that would be redundant.
Yeah, that would be a twist.
can't see him dropping Suicide Squad. Like, come on now.
Well, it's Tom
Even
Taylor.
likes good things.
If he drops Suicide Squad, I just cut him from the show and he'd never be back, right? That's just
And Plunge. I can't see him dropping Plunge unless he's like, oh, I want to.
There's only 2 issues left. It'd be kind of a weird.
Right. Which means it's Batman or Aquaman, and after this issue, I definitely am more feeling that he's dropped Batman and didn't read it.
Hey, plot twist. He actually just dropped Lola Woods because it ended, and that's what he's counting.
Yeah, he's just being pedantic.
Yes. All right. Okay. Right. Batman issue 93. James Tynion IV, Guillem March, and Javier Fernandez. I'm saying that again because I can't leave that discussion in the cut up version for YouTube. Doesn't work. Matt's the worst for that, by the way. I noticed that in editing the previous ones to cut up. Matt's the one who makes it awkward because he'll keep referencing
completely unrelated immediately.
So this is the issue where we kind of get a big twist at the end, kind of revealing what's going on with the designer, revealing all along. Because obviously the designer, technically, as we know, was killed. The Joker killed the designer. That was something we saw in the flashbacks from before.
Yeah. I low-key hated the reveal. I low-key hated how we got there. However, the plotting I really enjoyed. But any issue that is Batman sitting there and explaining everything, I don't like.
It's not the best issue, and not just because of the Guillem March art, although that obviously isn't helping.
It doesn't help, yeah.
What I will say is that I kind of agree with Matt in the sense that I like the plotting in the sense that it does actually make sense with everything that's happened before. That it is just one of the Joker's mad games that he is actually behind this designer stuff. Now, admittedly, I don't really understand what's going on with the designer, the person who's actually the designer right now, because when Batman takes the mask off, it's like a corpse.
But it was someone.
Like, there's a voice box with Joker's like, transmitting.
Is like is he controlled like a robot? Is it like a robot control? Is he?
Well, remember he was controlling the zombies. So is this part of that? Is this one of the designer's things? Like, and we know Tynion's not that lazy of a writer just to throw zombies.
Sure, yeah, maybe this
There's something at play.
Maybe the gap is what's hurt this is we just don't remember the context enough to get what's going on with the designer's body. But you know,
I do love the ending with the utter hopelessness. It feels like with Batman.
Well, the part of this that I really really like is because I loved the mystery at the time, which was like, okay, what did the Joker say when the designer took all the villains in and explained what he could give them, and the designer was terrified by the Joker's responses or whatever. Right. I love the theorizing then, and I love that now. Yeah, it was just quite simple. Is that the designer's grand plan, right? And as much as it is about exposition with Batman just telling us everything, his grand plan involved all these villains and taking over everything, blah blah. But the plan necessitated that the Joker was going to kill Batman and Robin. But that's the flaw: is that the Joker doesn't want to kill Batman. He never wants to kill Batman. He never will. I like that being the.
What I do without you.
I like that being the problem in the whole thing. I like that being the thing that the designer just couldn't have predicted, that he just got wrong.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the Joker yelling wrong and then shooting him. or a buzzer, right?
That is very Joker.
Yeah.
Right?
Why would that so the idea that the Joker's kind of used the plan himself to set up his war is fine. Like I don't have a problem with that conceptually.
And I love the in between Harley and Punchline. I feel that outside the art, Tynion just nails that dynamic of you're just the next thing, and she goes, no, you don't understand.
Well, they are in Harley and Punchline is mostly pretty good because that's mostly the Fernandez pages.
Some 2 pages in a row of just really gratuitous shots.
Sure.
Of Harley. That, like on the first page where they're fighting, the middle has a bit where they're like diving over each other.
I was talking.
That's awkward.
It's awkward. I was talking just general art quality though versus March, where it's just much more pleasing to look at. Yes, if we're going to talk about
I say that because I felt it really distracting, and really took me out of it, because it was there in that fight, and then the very next page, Harley doing her kick to the face.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what is going on with her body?
I actually never even noticed that. Joe, what it is? It's because the thing I hate about March more than anything is his faces. And the faces on these pages look good. Like, see the bottom of that first page? Harley and Punchline's faces, they're close-ups. Those look great. Those faces look great.
The faces look great in every single panel they're in.
But it is kind of nailed it with the gratuitousness. Like, that kick, I watch enough wrestling that you can't form a kick the way her body is. She's doing a ballet thing. You know what I mean?
Like, it's the way like her neck's twisted back around.
Yeah.
As to her torso, and I'm like, this just doesn't work, and it completely took me out of it.
Yeah. So, but I do love the dynamic between them is with.
I love the idea that I almost didn't notice some of this stuff just because I was too relieved to not be looking at Guillem March art.
Yeah, well, you know, but I like when Harley's like, I've been in your shoes. She goes, no, you don't understand. You wanted to fix him. I like him how he is. In fact, he's just a bridge.
Oh yeah, Punchline
to get me to who I really want to be.
Yeah,
damn.
I like that Punchline hates Harley because she tried to change him. Like, no. You tried to alter him. Like, why would you do that? The Joker's this special thing. Like,
and now it gets me to the point where, like, I don't think I can ever like Punchline, right? Because I don't like the Joker. I don't like how much certain comic fans fetishize Joker. And now I feel like Punchline is almost a response to that, right? The people that are like, oh no, Joker's actually right. Well, no, Punchline's nuts.
I probably said this when we got this sense of her from the other like short stories and stuff, but I actually I do love that she's more of like this just like devout zealot of like the Joker's like I mean we don't actually think he has an ideology, but like she does.
This is who she has always been, whereas Harley, Joker pulled her in. Yeah. Right? And she couldn't escape that. And she still can't. Like, she's still getting caught up in all the Joker's bullshit. But Punchline sought it out, like you said, like a zealot, and so she's a true believer. So anytime in fiction you see that true believer that's willing to go the extra step, it's usually they're going to use that person as the stepping stone. And I get that vibe from Punchline, right? This is not her final form, now, if you will.
Well, I do think the Joker reveal makes sense given what they set up before. I think it makes sense narratively to go that direction. I do get that if people are tired of this, like essentially the story became, it was Joker all along, lol. Like I get if you're mad at that, I can't really blame you for being mad at it, even though I do think it makes sense given what they set up.
I think there's an expectation of it not being that surprising this time because we're going into Joker War. So sure, of course this is the lead into Joker War.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I didn't get mad at it where I was like, oh no, it's Joker, boo. It was like, oh no, Batman fell for it.
I definitely rolled my eyes a little bit.
I didn't mind. Yeah. And but like you said, it was because it's leading right to Joker War. If I didn't know Joker War was coming, maybe it would have been different. So it's contextual.
Honestly, the biggest problem I had was the idea that Slade would work for the Joker and that he kind of very, very easily really injures Batman. When typically when Batman and Deathstroke go head to head, I mean, maybe you could say he's distracted because he's been shot by the Joker, but I don't know. It all felt a bit false to me. And
I do like the plan. The plan makes a lot of sense with all the chaos, and you bring in the mercenaries. They kill all of the civic leaders, and then Penguin puts his people there, becomes the mayor.
Sorry, I've got an answer on how Thingy's being controlled.
Designer.
Okay.
Designer. Thank you. Yeah. That first page of Joker where he's leaning in on the phone.
Oh yeah.
With a drink behind him. You can see them controlling him with he's got a VR headset.
Oh, you're right, yeah. He's got like an Oculus Rift on, and he's got like 2 joysticks.
Yeah, because that's why. Because there's a moment where the body's lying there, the designer, and Joker's laugh comes out of the throat, which I thought was like a speaker in there that he's transmitting to from the phone. Yeah. But the body being controlled there is there as well. I've just kind of noticed it in the background.
No, you're right. Right, there you go.
Oh shoot!
And then the other big thing is that the Joker, Catwoman inadvertently, through trying to protect Bruce's money, actually handed it over to the Joker. So the end of the issue is Joker, Punchline confirms to him that he's now worth $100 billion, and it's him laughing maniacally because he has all of Bruce Wayne's money.
And we didn't mention as well, Punchline slit Harley's throat.
She did, yes, and dumped her in the sewer. Now, obviously, Harley's going to be fine, but
it's Harley Quinn. That's it. I also like that Tynion brings in the idea of Bruce Wayne being not a public figure, but being a public face. So Bruce Wayne doesn't actually exist when it comes to the money. It's all just Wayne Enterprises, just shell accounts that shuttles things around, right? And that's how Selina's able to steal all the money.
Well, as they point out here, like the whole point is that Bruce doesn't want anyone to know where he spends a lot of the money because obviously, and typically, I mean, so there's a catty line there where she's like, oh well, typically anyone with that amount of money doesn't want anyone to know how to spend it.
Right.
But we know it's because he's Batman because he's spending a lot on
but
bat
to
tanks
someone
and shit.
else, he's just a typical billionaire that has set all these things up, so it's hard to follow.
Yeah.
And it eventually ends up, it's the lack of transparency ends up what does him in.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a nice touch, that hypocrisy of it almost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can anyone tell me where Punchline shoots Catwoman? Because I was a little unclear. Because she's got the smoking gun. There's the bang sound effect. Catwoman's lying there, but there's no like blood pool or gunshot wound. I was a little bit confused.
I have very little idea.
Maybe shot her in the back. I don't know.
Maybe
back of the head. I don't know.
It's kind of no. Well, I mean, she's wearing the full, cowl.
So I'm just a bit confused as to what happened there exactly.
Yeah,
me too.
It
should have been a knife.
I saw reactions.
Not a gun.
I saw reactions to this on Twitter before I read it, and they were very negative. It was very, oh god, Tynion, you've dropped the ball, you've done that. I read it sort of expecting to be, really disappointed, and obviously the art's pretty bad, and there's definitely some aspects of it that I don't love, but for the most part, I don't think it's like this giant misstep though in terms of where it's going and what it's been building to. It doesn't feel like I'm not concerned about Tynion's run because this issue's not perfect, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, it's fine. Again, it's not the best issue, but I wouldn't say that he dropped it. I feel like it leads right to where it's going. It makes sense. It's just I don't like the whole issue is Batman explaining things like that. Even if this was a Superman issue or
it's just
Flash,
it's a fundamental storytelling issue as opposed to what the story is itself. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's why it's probably my least favorite issue of his run, and it will be reflected in the score. But it's not that I dislike the end point of the ideas. And like I said, I rolled my eyes a bit. Oh, Joker's behind it, but I'm not sure we're going into Joker or whatever. It's fine. It'll be fun. But it's the storytelling of the way it's revealed, things in the art being unclear, like this stuff with Catwoman. Like I'm not sure what actually happened, and that's a problem, I think, because I don't think it's supposed to be a mystery.
No, but that's why I think the bang sound effect, like he could have just made it a knife. We know Punchline loves knives.
Yeah, but you got the bang sound effect and then her holding the smoking gun, so it's like there is a clear implication.
Yeah. So we'll see where it goes. I think I'm generally down for what they're doing. Now, obviously, it's Joker lol. I mean, I get it, but hey. Matt, what do you give it?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5, mostly because of the art and some of the other stuff, but it's not bad. So yeah.
Connor?
It's a 5.5 for me. Which again, I feel like I have to justify this every so often. On my scale, that is not bad. 5 is average. It's fine.
Okay. All right. No one said that.
You made a noise.
It was more just in the contrast.
What's your score though?
It was in the contrast to Matt. It wasn't a noise at the score itself. My score.
I didn't hate this issue, so whatever.
Yeah, no, I didn't hate it either. I'll probably sort of split a different score, about 6.5, I think. It's got problems. The art's really rough, which is the big reason why it's going down. But everything else we've said. So that is Batman. So. Justice League 47, Robert Venditti writing with Eddy Barrows on the art, and this is kind of the end of the arc here with the Tartarus, and once again it's an issue of pretty nice looking fight scenes of big spreads, 2-page spreads, a lot of nice art, not much to the story itself, I would say.
Yeah, I've actually got not a lot to say on this one because it's kind of just more of the same for what this arc especially. No, I mean, it looks fine.
The only notable things to really say is that there's a sort of montage, as it were, of people around the world fighting. My favorite being the little boy and girl, like basically beating the shit out of each other because of the energy.
I'm confused. I meant to ask Venditti on Twitter, see if I could get a response. Who are the Finches in football? Because it was the Finches versus the Hammers, so it's West Ham, obviously. Got that. I'm not familiar with the Finches.
Context for the scene that you're talking about there. One of the other things we see in the montage is people at a bar who are watching a football game fighting. I'll always give the context. You got to give people the context so they understand what you're talking about.
I thought that happens every time you guys watch soccer.
Don't say you guys. I am not a part of that world. How
honestly,
dare you?
This didn't look that extreme. Like,
yeah, right.
It looked that out of line to what I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
It would not be unusual for a visiting team, if they won, to go and visit the local bar of stadium of the home team and start some trouble. I mean, maybe less so now. I don't know. But in my youth, when I was attending football games, this was pretty common.
But see, that's the thing. That's also with Venditti is even I know, and I don't watch that much. Is you don't have the nicknames like we do.
Yeah, a lot of
teams.
The
Finches and the Hammers. It's West Ham United or
right. West Ham. Like we've got like the Magpies, which are Newcastle, because Newcastle is like a magpie and
right. But they're Newcastle FC, right? Like they're not.
If someone's the Magpies, you'd know. Most people would know.
But it's just like Arsenal's nickname is the Gunners, but they're not the Arsenal Gunners. They're just Arsenal FC.
Yes, it's completely like it's a separate nickname.
Yeah, right. So I saw that too, just as a sports thing.
End this now.
Saying as a sports thing, it raised my hackles as well, Connor.
Cannot give a shit. All right, moving on to the actual stuff here. Is just like basically a beat, but they all start forgiving each other for whatever they were fighting for, with the Tartarus energy being unleashed, and it basically makes Corrigan realize that he has to let the Spectre, back in.
God, essentially.
Forgive God, yes, for giving him this burden. We see all the people in the montage kind of like make friends again. And yeah, it's basically it. But there's a lot of fighting when they're fighting the giant god of Tartarus, and it includes, John comes in with all the Amazons, and all of this stuff looks really good. Honestly, it was a nice, quick visual feast, which is why I'll be fairly lenient on it, even though the story's just kind of ho hum. But it was nice to look at. So
yeah, I like the idea of Tartarus being the god's boogeyman. He's always just been there. It's one of those essential natures. Yeah, just the essential nature of the gods. There's always one. In Norse it's Ymir. So
was that the boogeyman? As a matter of fact, it was. Halloween. Okay. It's called cinema.
Yeah.
All right.
Baba Yaga.
What did you just say?
So the Baba Yaga. That's John Wick. It's also boogeyman.
Don't sell my classic Halloween. The masterpiece that it is.
John Wick is a modern classic.
Thank you.
With an alright recent movie, okay?
Modern classic.
My sister-in-law tried to tell me John Wick sucked, and she'd never even seen it. And I have never been that mad at her. And we've had some yelling matches. Tell me John Wick sucks. You've never even seen it?
It came up in the context of The Last of Us 2. In a little bit of a review controversy last week. And it was hilarious.
Yeah. Last of Us 2 much better than John Wick. Yes, I agree. So
did you see what this was, P?
I did. I don't want to talk about it. I don't care.
All I'll say about Last of Us 2 is my brother was very disappointed because he had built it up in his head. And he's like, "Look, if I'd never played the first one, this game would have been rad." But it just doesn't compare.
3 days, and I'm like, I'll get to it.
But just while I'm on the subject, it's also better than Schindler's List. So,
oh, good lord. All right, move on. I don't need to.
What? Look, I never need to watch that movie again. It's solid. It's a good movie, but
true. I don't need to ever see it again either.
But hey, I like Halloween more than Schindler's List too. No one's going to bite my head off for that. Halloween's a better movie than Schindler's List. I'm talking about the movie, not the person who actually did the thing.
Cool. What's your grades, guys? I'll go first.
You go first.
I'm going to give this a 7. It's perfectly acceptable.
Connor.
For much the same reason, I'm giving it a 6.
All right. Okay. Dark Knight, also better than Schindler's List. I will give this a solid 7 out of 10. Jurassic Park, Spielberg, the same year, better than Schindler's List.
Sorry, I want to rewind just a second.
Yes.
All the way back to Green Lantern. Did we say Hal Jordan's first appearance was 1961?
I asked that question because of the...
And Matt was like, yeah.
Sure.
Just because...
1950... gonna be 59, isn't it?
It's 59. Yeah, it's at the back. Sinestro was 61.
See, that makes sense.
Sinestro story.
That's where it comes from.
Well, that correction is great, but on YouTube they're cut up and this won't be there, so they're going to correct you in the comments anyway.
Yeah, well, they'll learn when they get to this.
They won't get to this though necessarily. They might not click on the Justice League review.
Well, they should.
Hey, what's next?
The Flash 756. Joshua Williamson writing with Christian Duce on the art. This is the start of Legion of Zoom, and it's basically Thawne going through various time periods and collecting Flash villains that he would like to have in his family.
Yeah, and I'm feeling like him pulling them out from different times. He's not going to who they are the last time we saw them, right? He's going to different, time periods. I feel this is Williamson's backdoor to reset some things going forward.
Very possibly, yes. So it keeps cutting to him collecting various people. He goes and gets Grodd when Grodd was in power of Gorilla City. He goes to get Cold, Captain Cold, and
he's with
Golden Glider.
Pulling crimes with Golden Glider.
Yeah. And he gets them again a couple of years ago. He also goes to get the Trickster, James Jesse.
Which is James Jesse, yep. Before he had started all of his shenanigans with the forces and whatnot.
And he wants a turtle. But the big reveal at the end is that the final people that he's going for is an evil version of the Tornado Twins, which is very interesting.
Very, very cool. I'm glad we're getting to see them because Williamson did hint at them numerous times throughout his run. So that's real cool. So hopefully we get the actual version showing up by the end of this, by Finish Line. It
wouldn't surprise me if they fix some sort of timey-wimey stuff and then all of a sudden the good version show up. But the main...
because the fact that Bart exists means the good versions exist somewhere. Right?
The main through line of the issue is that Barry's basically telling Iris and the other speedsters, he's telling Avery and Wallace to hide and run and go elsewhere. But all three of them show up in defiance saying, no, we're sticking together, you're not doing this pushing us away bullshit, which, to be fair, has been almost a complaint that we've had about this book, is that Barry keeps doing it over and over again, and it's actually kind of frustrating to read at a certain point. So it was actually kind of a fist pumping moment where they just said, no, we're not doing it.
You're not doing it to us this time. And then Iris is the one that puts it together is, well, no, it's not about keeping you guys safe. It's about he doesn't want you to see what he's going to have to do. And, oh, man, that leans into the Flash, continuity.
Yeah.
Him killing Zoom at a certain point. So
because he doesn't. Basically, he doesn't want them to see him go that far and ruin kind of their image of him. The art's very good. I really like the art for the most part. There's one or two weird faces. Typically, and there's a page that I'm looking at right now with Thawne, as he's running towards the camera, as it were. Whenever someone's running towards the page and their head's kind of tilted down when they're looking up, the heads look really weird. He looks almost alien with the head shape.
Yeah.
But
and I think that has a lot to do with the shape of his cowl and whatnot too, and trying to play the space.
But other than a couple of instances of that, the art's actually really good, and I was really into it.
Yeah, me too. But I like the story that they're telling, that Wallace and Avery aren't going to take no for an answer. That he is going to need a Flash family, and I'm hoping this leads to some other characters popping up because he is going to need reinforcements now. And that this is them showing up to help him kind of is going to what changes his mind. I really don't think he's killing Zoom. I think that's what's going to be the change here. And maybe him killing Zoom is what leads the Tornado Twins into becoming, that version. So the fact that he doesn't. Because I also don't think, we've seen the lots of paradoxes with the Flash. Because if Zoom started messing with the time stream, that's going to create paradoxes now. Because if he pulled Cold and Glider out, right, before all this other stuff, it's just a whole timey-wimey.
Well, that's the thing. It's the Captain Cold and Glider from before we had all this stupid Year of the Villain crap associated with them. Right. It's better versions of them, which is interesting. And it might just be a simple case of Williamson wanted to use good versions of these characters and not the ones that had been butchered by himself, even in some cases.
And use a new 52 version of Grodd with the helmet, the horn on it and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, what we've not really said yet is if we actually liked the issue, though. So, how did you feel?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this issue. I mean, it's not the same as the last, where it had that holy shit, but it's gonna have. I do feel he's finally back. You know, he's worked himself into shape.
Yeah, I was worried that, after the excitement of that ending in the last issue, that it was going to instantly just kind of ruin it by being what the book's been in a way that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I guess the nicest thing I can say about it is that it didn't do that. Like, I left this feeling like, I'm still into the story. I'm still into what Thawne's doing. Yeah. I was into the Flash family stuff for the most part, but maybe a bit long drawn out in the decision-making process. But I like Thawne building his team. And the reveal at the end was a fun one. So it does kind of feel like, obviously he had this ending story in mind for the end of his run for a long time. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that came in the last 30 or so issues, 40 issues even, was kind of the stuff that we didn't like. Finally he's getting to do the end game story that feels like it's more relevant to the Flash as a whole and not just whatever he's built and his creations. Which, a lot of that, all the forces and all that other stuff. So but no, so not bad, not like a knockout of the park either by any means, but solid enough. So what are you giving the Flash?
I'm gonna give us a 7.5.
Yeah, I'll give it a solid 7. I'm not going to sing its praises too much, but solid 7. So Aquaman issue 60, Kelly Sue DeConnick writing with Miguel Mendonca on the art, and this is them finding baby Andy, which they actually do quite early in the issue. I wasn't expecting it to that element of it to be wrapped up in that way. But it's interesting because it's basically the gods say, hey, look, we're going to look after the baby because you have to go and deal with everything, and the baby can't be around you while you go and deal with who's responsible for this while you're fixing stuff. And also Mira wakes up, of course, is the other big thing, which it seems to be that Andy kind of does that, actually, in an interesting way.
Her presence.
Yeah, it's a question of how intentional it might be, because is it Andy itself, or is it amplified through the mother shark?
Yeah, right. Mother Shark's probably a part of it. I will say, regardless of any opinions that anyone has of this issue, I don't care what they are, because that 2-page spread of Mother Shark is absolutely gorgeous, and I will not listen to anything else.
I am loving that Kelly Sue is delving into the whole gods and ocean spirits, and what's this mean with the ninth tribe?
It's consistently my favorite part of this book has been when it's been dealing with those aspects.
Yeah,
that Mother Shark. Look at her though. Look at the Mother Shark. Yeah. Look at that 2-page spread.
I just love the sheer size of it.
Yeah, the size, the shading, all of it. It's glorious. Anyway, so no, it's an interesting choice where he has to sort of give up his daughter to go and deal with what's going on, and Mira wakes up and is like, basically finds out that our wedding's in the next day because Volko's been arranging all this stuff so that he can actually get things moving. So we end with kind of the cliffhanger of, no, the wedding's happening. Like this wedding between her and Volko is supposed to be happening the next day. And Arthur's off to go and deal with things. But there's a lot of really nice stuff. And it's kind of what I was saying. I was sort of hinting in the news portion when we were talking about crossovers and stuff infecting books. That obviously the Year of the Villain stuff did infect this book, but it is kind of nice how here I felt like the use of the mech head to sort of aid with the search for the baby was a nice natural inclusion of like she had to put the stuff in the book in the first place, but now it's in the book. She's using it as part of the history.
What I appreciate about this is none of it really mattered that it was a mecha mantis. This could have been anything. It's just, we already established this thing was there, so might as well use it.
It's a MacGuffin. Instead of creating something new, she just went back and used.
And that's smart.
Something here.
Yeah. It's smart.
Also, I like that. What's the character's name? I can't find her name. The one that Dolphin goes and finds. I'm gonna mess this up. Lernea. The whole. Is at my desk. The whole reason that she took Andy was by the orders of Orm to leave her for a fisherman to find, so she could have a happy life away from all of this.
Yeah, that's a very interesting twist, because last issue I think we almost we didn't hate it, but we kind of rolled our eyes a little bit. Oh, it's just Orm.
Yeah,
it's just Orm stealing the baby.
But Orm, what are you doing? Have you not learned?
Orm's, recently reformed self, kind of giving it like basically what Arthur had.
It's more. It's definitely more interesting than him just being evil. It's just he's like, no, that baby can't have a life with you and Mira and the lives you have, which is interestingly kind of similar to what the gods tell Arthur. Is like, no, you have to leave her with us so you can go off and do your Aquaman shit. And it's more interesting. I mean, it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still in the wrong. It's still not the right thing to do, but it does make it a bit more layered and a little bit more interesting than what it was up before.
Yeah,
it's not just because we had assumed it was, this is his path to the throne.
Yeah, and it makes me think that maybe everything else he's doing because he's been claiming that it's not evil, that he's doing this right for the people of the Ninth Trade, of the people who need this new home. Maybe he actually is being sincere. Maybe he isn't being an evil dick. You know.
Can we talk about how he's got them singing military songs?
He does.
Sure.
That cracked me up. I really appreciate the lettering here of the chorus shouting back, being the big red letters, and then as the character we're following moves away, all you hear is just that, and it gets smaller and smaller as it goes through to show you just how far away he's moving, and the sound of it being further away. It was really smart.
Yeah. I do think this is gonna lead with the problems that we're seeing with Mira as queen in Volko, in even just the Order of the Monarchy through Abnett's run, is that it wouldn't surprise me if Atlantis does away with the monarchy, right? Because you're having almost a republic style government coming from Orm. Like, right, he is of the monarchy and whatnot, but not anymore. He got cast out. And I almost can see this leading to we're gonna have multiple leaders. We're gonna have a representative. The Ninth Tribe is gonna be represented, finally. And it's not gonna be this big war that we're thinking of. I could be completely wrong, and that is gonna be Orm. Orm just wants to destroy things because he can't have it. But the fact that he kidnapped Andy so she would be away from this life, it tells me that
don't just revert back to Orm being Orm.
Yeah, me either. And that's why I definitely think that he is doing this actually out of, no, I was wrong. I was in the monarchy. I was I was a prince and I had it good. And I didn't realize what life was like until being cast out. And now he's coming back with a different perspective.
It's okay if what he does is still wrong and villainous, right? As long as it's not just back to him stealing the throne for himself, as usual. Right. That would be boring.
Right. And I don't think I definitely get the seeds of this is how he builds a rebellion against that. And we've already seen the monarchy as kind of BS with Mother Satea and just all the stuff that they're making Mara do just because of traditions through. Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if Kelly Sue, how she writes, is going to look at that and go, hey,
I think
let's change this.
All this is really good stuff, all this potential. Fundamentally, at its core, I would say that Orm actually trying to do the right thing here and not turn out to be evil is by far way more fascinating and compelling than him just turning out to be evil again. So, if as long as she sticks to that in some capacity, then I think this will work. Whatever it is, Kelly Sue's doing. So, hopefully she gets to tell all of her story uninterrupted and isn't outed out of the job by bullshit, chicanery behind the scenes.
It's still crazy to me that you have Kelly Sue, Matt Fraction, and Bendis writing monthly books at DC, and they've been pretty much left alone, to do what they need to. Like, she had a tie-in to Year of the Villain, and Fraction's been on his own telling whatever story Jimmy is,
that has been left alone more than any other book in existence.
Anyway, so art's pretty solid. Not always necessarily great, but it's
a couple of really standout moments. I think Mother Shark, right before that, Aquaman walking away into the with the half in shadow is great. Yeah. And the panel of Dolphin doing the thumbs up is phenomenal.
Yeah, some really good stuff in there. Mendonca is not necessarily a name that I even think of quickly when I'm thinking of artists, but solid enough stuff here with some really, like you say, standout moments. So, Matt, what are you giving Aquaman?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Connor?
It's just a straight 8 from me.
Yeah, I'll go with a straight 8 as well. I am tempted to go a little bit higher, but I do think Kelly Sue's building a great run here. It could be the sort of thing where a lot of the issues might end up only be an 8 or so, but like the whole will be more than the sum of its parts, because there's something really kind of, at least it feels like there's a really well thought out run happening here that's been building since she started and took over the book. So hopefully we have much to go. So we'll move on then to Suicide Squad issue 6. Tom Taylor writing with Bruno Redondo on the art. So I mean, yes, prepare for some praise because it's a Tom Taylor comic book.
But there might be high scores at the end of this one.
Yes, there very well might be. So they're getting all their implants, their bombs removed from their necks because, well, makes sense, they have to, right?
They are still bombs in their neck.
And,
yes.
Yep, and it's a shady doctor that Harley knows that might have broken out of Arkham,
it's one of
might
two.
have been
one
released.
that was healed and released,
Uh-huh.
or she was the one who escaped after brutally stabbing 3 guards with a spoon.
With the spoon,
which pays off later with Batman, because Batman gets a really funny payoff to that joke.
It's the spoon.
Yes, very deadpanny. So yeah, basically they're in Gotham, and Batman catches wind of this. The doctor betrays them because there's a bounty on their heads, a pretty big one at that, 24 million. I wonder if she gets part of the bounty, if she gets like just a couple of them.
Maybe, but she does try to inject them.
I would.
Yeah, she tries to inject them with the poison that she says is an anesthetic after the fact that they've just had surgery without anesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what mind she was in?
So they obviously get out of there. They take the dog because they can't leave the dog behind, because of course.
Nope.
And we end up with this big blowout with Batman where like they kind of take him on, and to the point where I think Asita actually at one point says, "No, we can take Batman. We can do this.
Yeah,
of course we can."
Well, and Hal is like, "You know what? Not gonna lie, this never ends well."
Yeah, actually, one of my favorite moments in the whole book actually is because they actually get attacked by other people in the truck, and it flips over as an explosive. Zebra Man kind of saves them from it, but they get out of the truck and like they're ready for a fight. They're all gearing up to take on like the 10 assassins, and they come out of the truck and they're all just lying unconscious. And there's just this great close up on Harley at the bottom of the page, like, this is not the first time in Gotham that I've been surrounded by a bunch of unconscious bodies. I'm not gonna lie, this never ends well.
Batman's just behind her.
Yeah.
And as they tell her behind you, she spins around with a gun, and he's gone. And she's like, "Stop Batmaning."
Yes.
Well, because then she turns back around and they're gone. But this also made me realize that Tom Taylor's working out his X-23 vibes or all-new Wolverine vibes through Chaos Kitten and Thylacine. Because I was getting some Laura and kind of Gabby vibes in the fight with Batman, right? Having read those books now, I can make those,
you can make it informed.
Yeah. So, so they fight and they really do take it to Batman, and Wink shows up, who apparently Wink's a big fan.
Someone's knee connecting with Batman's chin.
Yeah, and again, another great joke here is Chaos Kitty's saying, here, keep the dog, because Deadshot's going to stay behind. Deadshot's going to take on Batman, so just to distract them long enough so that they can get away.
Right.
And because one of the things they find out when they hack into whatever, that Deadshot and Harley actually should be pardoned. They actually served their time and should be free. And they were being kept as slaves, and their reactions to that was great actually in the art. But she says, keep the dog for self-defense. Batman wouldn't hurt a poor defenseless dog, and it actually leads up to just a wonderful moment where Deadshot and Batman are fighting, and Deadshot being essentially about to be beat, he just says stop, and then we just get to this page where he's just cowering behind this little puppy. He's just got the dog in front of his face.
I'm holding a dog. Truce.
And then shows Batman that he's pardoned and that he should be let go. And that the squad, this squad actually have
that moment though where he goes, I was pardoned, and Batman's just like, not by me. He's like, that's not how the law works.
No,
but he still lets him go though. It's just a really cool Batman line for him to say, because he still ultimately adheres to it. But Floyd does point out that this squad have a purpose and are actually trying to do something good. Maybe give them a chance. That this is not just Amanda Waller's team doing shady jobs for the government.
Black Ops.
Yeah. So
and then it ends on possibly the funniest beat of the whole issue.
Yes, in fact, I did like this as well, where Batmobile's gone because of was a Blink ticket. Wink. Sorry, not Blink. Wink. And he's just standing there. He's like, you're not left. He's like, well, my car's gone, and he explains it, and he's like, do you want me to call you an Uber? And Batman responds with the greatest comeback of all time to that sentence: do you want me to call you an ambulance?
It's so good. And then there's just that panel beat of Deadshot staring at him, and then be like, right, good talk.
Yeah. So no, very good. Nice little touch here that I noticed not right away, but sort of when I double taked was at the bottom when it's like the Batmobile, like sort of like the smoke from the exhaust, as it says next, Deadshot aims for home. Just the little speech bubble. It's actually a wink in the Batmobile, driving somewhere.
Yes. Yeah,
that's great.
Nice little touch.
I also like the back and forth between Deadshot and Batman, and just Deadshot's having none of it from him. And he's like, you brought assassins to my city and all this other stuff. And I reading that going like, yeah, this is a Thursday for you, Bruce.
Yeah, like, and Bruce trying to get through to Deadshot with the same way he always does with, well, what about your daughter? And he's like, really? You're going to lecture me about kids?
Yeah, well, I like that he goes, you going on that path has put your daughter in jeopardy, and you should be. And he's like, oh yeah, like all your Robins? All right, good talk. Like, I just love that Deadshot has zero time for Batman.
Yeah, he's... Do you know what? We know from the solicits and the announcements in previous weeks where this is going for Deadshot. And we kind of all wrote off going like, nah, they won't. It's all a fake out. They announced it so early. The amount of effort they're putting into building up Deadshot in these few issues before it makes me think maybe he will. Maybe they'll go through with it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting giving him this much time, and the fact that he's kind of left the squad technically right now, but we're clearly still going to follow his story. Is a
next time Deadshot aims for home, so it's his issue next time. We assume.
I mean, it may be 50-50. It may be a side plot.
It could well.
Whatever the team are doing, but
right. Well, and the fact that Bruce knows that Harley and Deadshot did pay their debt, and they were supposed to be free, so it makes me wonder if it's going to come up to, Bruce and Ted having some words as well at a certain point.
Maybe. Yeah,
because they're both
one of the
rich.
Only things that was weird about this issue and the early part of this issue is that there's no editor's note telling us that. Oh yeah, there was a story in Flash that kind of took place in between. They explained how they got here.
Right.
I guess it just kind of works if you didn't. But that issue was a really fun read, so I'd recommend going and checking it out. If you didn't read the Flash annual, which was basically a Suicide Squad annual, then go check it out. It was solid. The two of us recommend it.
I recommend saving your money, but you do you.
Don't listen. You know what? First rule of advice on this show is don't listen to Connor. Well, that's the best advice I can give you for enjoying this show. So no, good. And obviously Redondo's art, not much to say because it's just as consistently great as it's been the last couple issues. But
particularly good pacing, I think, in this issue. A lot of the gags and the visual humor in particular really paying off with the pacing of how it's laid out, especially.
Yeah, no, really solid stuff. Matt, what are you giving Suicide Squad 6?
I'm giving this a 9. I really enjoyed this issue.
Connor?
Yeah, it's a 9.
I concur. It's also a 9. What surprise? What a surprise! All right, Justice League Dark issue 23. Ram V writing, Kyle Hotz on the art. Take it away.
So we pick up where we were last time, dealing with the parliaments of life. Just trying to convene that. We got a good chunk of fight sequences first that we got. Wonder Woman, Animal Man, and Bobo kind of versus Arcane. Zatanna's out for the count from last issue, and Constantine's kind of trying to look after her during the fight.
Right. Yeah, because as this issue shows, Zatanna's a bigger player in this than we ever imagined.
Yeah.
That it's almost personal at this point now. And that she was kind of condemned from the start, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Basically, the parliaments have to reconvene because they're out of balance, and that's what's causing all these problems. And anytime they're out of balance, so they found out that the flowers have taken over the parliament of the trees because of Floronic Man, and so they get Constantine to do Constantine things.
This is actually the most traditional Constantine thing I've read in current continuity in a long time.
From what I understand of the character and how he relates to Swamp Thing, this almost feels like this could have happened in the Alan Moore era, in the Vertigo Swamp Thing era.
Definitely.
Right?
Honestly, even the way Kyle Hotz draws Constantine feels very classic.
Well,
it feels different in a way that he usually feels a lot cleaner than this now, I think.
Yeah, and we're getting ahead because it also felt like traditional Swamp Thing. Not that Swamp Thing up to this point hadn't been, but there was a different vibe to him. This one felt like you could definitely tell it's from that era.
The monster.
So they go around and they go to that cave where they met with the elementals, and it seems like the elementals are on the side of fate, and they all agree that that each of the avatars will give up their power momentarily so they can get back into balance. And so, Fate's holding this big tablet. It's super, like, I don't want to say metal and that, like what's going on with the event, but it looks like an album cover of him holding that tablet up with the energy coming from it, right? And so, Animal Man gives his connection to the red, and they're going through.
They make Floronic Man go first,
right? And when they do that, they separate Floronic Man from the green, and it allows Constantine to do its Constantine bits, which is to jump in to himself, right?
When instead of Abby giving up the rot, she kind of channels her power outwards instead, and kind of absorbs like a little hint of the green and the red that are in there.
Right, but it also takes out the Parliament of Flowers. Like, she uses the rot to fully attack, because they don't have an avatar. There's no defense from the rot, which allows Constantine to go into the rot.
Yes,
right?
And he picks
pull out a seed.
The seed of what's left.
Right, and then we find out that, Alec Holland died, and all that's left is the husk, which cracks me up, because my understanding of Swamp Thing was they brought him back where, under the Vertigo Swamp Thing, he was just the memories of Alec Holland. Alec Holland died in the swamp, and the green or whatever.
Yeah, that was kind of the early stuff of Moore's run. That was kind of the formation of that.
Right, and then when they brought him back post Brightest Day, Blackest Night, in there, he was Alec Holland again, and he was this avatar that had to be rooted in humanity a bit, so the green didn't take full control. Yet now, when the stuff with the Upside Down Man and the Dark, the Injustice League Dark happened, it killed Alec Holland. He's gone. So now that's all that's left is this husk that now has Alec's memories. And Constantine is able to bring him out and essentially regrow him with help from the Parliament, right?
Yeah.
And it reestablishes the Parliament of Trees. And
it's worth noting as well, this was Constantine's plan, along with Abby. She knew about it, but the rest of the team didn't know about his plan. They thought they were going along with let's create balance and go for it like this. The Parliament of Flowers, Floronic Man will get his powers back like everyone else.
Right? Which doesn't. And so then that causes problems with the other parliaments, like that they were double-crossed. But then when they see Swamp Thing come out of there, and the Parliament of Trees retake the place of the Parliament of Flowers, it all kind of goes according to plan.
Yeah, but the rest of the team don't trust John anymore. He's like, no, he can't be trusted. He's back to being shady Constantine bollocks.
Mm-hmm. Right,
which
but the greater good and all that. Right, greater good and all that. He always, say what you will about Constantine, he is about the greater good most of the time. Sometimes the greater good's himself.
Yes, it's the greater good until his own life's on the line, usually.
Right, and then it's... And so, Abby's fine with this now. This is kind of Alec, but not really. But Swamp Thing's back with the team. And then we see Zatanna. I have to refresh. And
she's had the rot inside, so it's been kind of killing her from the inside out. She's been kind of infected. But this has cleared her now with what we've been doing. But she kind of has memories of what happened in there and a dream of it, and she sees the Upside Down Man.
Yeah, so basically, she's dreaming. She remembers the black infecting her mind. In her dream, she drowns in the ocean. There's nothing but darkness as far as the eye can see. And then you see just the ghastly mouth of the Upside Down Man. You just go, the trouble with drowning in darkness is that you never quite know which way is up, and it's upside down. And it's almost as if you remember the stuff with Hecate being the shadow form.
Yeah, your mic's going. It is very similar to that in the other world's illusion and their images.
That's where the Upside Down Man came from, right?
Yeah.
It was the dark reflection of Hecate, that this was, magic in its darkest form. Now that he's, coming across Zatanna, It's almost as if they're the alternate.
Yeah, because the way this final page, the image is framed, is it's like Upside Down Man is standing on a puddle, but on the underneath of the puddle, the reflection is Zatanna.
Right.
It's a gorgeous image.
Which I was getting at, where she is almost like this has been her. It's almost personal now for the Upside Down Man. What happened with her father is that now he has targeted her, and almost as like if because what's her name? Cersei is still the goddess of magic, right?
Yes.
It's almost as if he needs an avatar, and just with everything that had happened with this, having the parliaments rebalanced. And, kind of there's more order to the magic going forward. It's almost as if he needs someone, and now he's targeted Zatanna. And again, I could be completely off, but that's where
I think that's an interesting way of reading it for sure. And right. You could be right.
So, but we'll see. But no, this issue, it's, this book and Hawkman have both been surprises where they've been really consistent. Like outside of the Wonder Woman, what was that? The Witching Hour. That was a bit messy.
Yeah.
Justice League Dark's been really consistent, and the stuff that it's doing with magic and building it down to.
It feels like one of those books that has benefited from going on for a long time. That it's really building its story, like long form, because there's not like all these immediate payoffs. There's just a lot of little things that are creeping in really nicely.
Yeah. So I'm gonna rate this between the art, which is super shadowy and dark, and like you're saying,
really scratchy is the word I'd use.
And it feels like it is from that Vertigo era, and I feel like the stuff that at play here that was intentional. But I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with 8.5. That's really good.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Jimmy Olsen, number 11, Matt Fraction writing with Steve Lieber on the art. Take it away.
So this is probably the quickest I've ever read Jimmy Olsen. There's not a lot of cutting into the different stories because Fraction is starting to tie up a lot of these loose ends.
Some funny talk about how he's going to tie it up towards the end. We'll get to that.
Of course. But Jimmy ends up, where he had went from the last issue.
He sold the ship and flew off and left them all on the rooftop.
And so they're fending for themselves. So we see them at a certain point. They're running out of food. The warlord alien is calling for his wife. And Jix is trying to come up with, how we're going to solve this. And the professor says that, they need to know where Jimmy went because he cowardly cut off. But he knows he's in Metropolis because he has an Olsen detector.
Yes, and it will tell him exactly where Jimmy is.
Because it's keyed into his genetics. Yeah. And that Jimmy's in Metropolis. But we see Jimmy go to this alien race who only believes in fairness.
The scrub, that's what they're called.
The scrub. And that because it's up to Jix on who she wants to marry, and that Jimmy and her were already married, and that it's very unfair that this warlord's come to Earth to take her. They don't like hearing that. And so when Jimmy shows back up, it's with this alien race.
I love that this alien, when they're when they're going through what happened. So Jimmy's saying, fair's fair, and I was married to her first, and he's like, indeed, Jimmicle Olsen of Earth. He calls him a few different names as he goes on.
Yeah,
continuing that gag, which is great.
Right.
He's like, fair is fair. No takebacks is indeed fair. But did you call no backsies? Were any fingers crossed? Or was it opposite day? I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. They have a set of rules, the scrub. And we get that later with the no backsies, because he yells no backsies are called when he attacks the warlord. So you like all that. And then we get with the Porcadillo and Corrigan. Not that Corrigan, but a different one.
I love that gag.
Yeah, there's these two Metropolis detectives that Corrigan's like, you need to talk to him. He has information on who's trying to kill Jimmy Olsen. And both of these nameless detectives are like, well, how can we believe this guy? And he's really trying to sell Julian Olsen up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we can't be having this. So you feel like there's something up with these detectives, and you see one of the detectives make a call.
They're like, well, we don't really want to cross Julian Olsen, and we don't really want to cross Lex Luthor. So no. And it ends with one of them going to phone the boss, but it's like, well, which one is the boss, right? Julian or Lex is the way it leaves this.
Mm-hmm. and Superman shows up to have a talk with the crooked detective.
The ending of this story, because we cut all the way back around to it later. Because a lot of the most issues of Jimmy Olsen, every time we cut to a new thing, has had the full classic like Silver Age introduction panel, wall of text, and most of these don't actually have it in this issue until near the end. And this one does. It's quite funny. It's like, oh, you saw this sweaty nameless detective earlier, but he was merely a sweaty nameless detective in someone else's chapter. But now he's got his own thing. And and we see it's Lex that he was phoning.
Right, he's phoning Lex, and Lex has Julian Olsen basically dead to rights, going, I know exactly what you did. And you see, is it Julian or Lex that's holding the lion of Metropolis?
I think Lex gives it to Julian to hold.
And he holds it. And as we learned in the last issue, that's the reason that the family's penniless at this point, or the trust is, and that you got to kill Jimmy to get the money, because Julian does have he has a noble mission in saving Metropolis from Lex Luthor. It's just him trying to get money to do so. He's crossed that line.
Yeah.
And
there's some
Lex does all this.
Great action in this issue, because obviously, so Jimmy arrives with his army of scrub.
Yep.
But then he calls in reinforcements. He calls in everyone he knows. So we get Metamorpho show up, and we get
Jimmy
Olsen.
Olsen, there it is.
Yeah. And but then we get pretty much everyone else who's been in all the issues, and that's what all the caption boxes are like, telling us how all these people who have been in 11 random issues, this weird journey. We don't want to call it a crisis, but I mean it's a bit of a crisis, and they use the crisis font.
Crisis font, yeah. And we see the Newsboy Legion and all of the different Jimmys that we saw in that one issue. The reign of the Olsens, and whatnot.
It's great, and there's kind of a page where we see all the different multiverse versions of Jimmy. There's a Hawkman Jimmy, Guy Gardner Jimmy. It's all these things. It's great.
The Crisis of Infinite Olsens kind of vibe, right? But so this leads up, in Faction and Lieber are aware of this, because then we get to how possibly can we tie up all of these threads into one last issue. And
so you'll notice we only have 26 pages, including this one, to wrap up all of this nonsense.
Right. And we still don't know why there's two Jimmys, right? There's one that was reading in Metropolis while he was off planet, because we know that he was doing that.
Yep.
Unless they're going to play with the timeline even a little bit more.
Which I wouldn't put it past them at this point.
No. And we're going to have to, how the family's going to deal with Julian putting a hit out on, because they even bring up, well, what about the genetically altered duplicate, right? And he's like, well, no, that's different. We're not reading that. Yeah. That was destroyed. We're fine. So Fraction is cleaning stuff up. So I am curious to see where this all leads to. Yeah. But yeah, it was really quick, because we get a lot of the pages of seeing all the aliens and all the characters that we've seen.
Yeah, there's a lot of
show back
action in this issue, more than any other. Right. But it's a blast to read.
Yep. And Lieber's art is still fantastic. And like you said, we saw all the different versions of Jimmy in that one page. We get the detectives and Superman. Lieber draws a great Superman. He's not in this a lot, but when he does show up, you notice
and that's the ending here, is Superman being like, I think it's time for me to step in here and give Jimmy a hand.
Yep, because he is Superman's pal. Yeah. Right? And I think this issue was called Everybody's Pal, Jimmy Olsen, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, that was
because of what it means. But yeah, no, I'm just like Lois. This is really coming around. Can't believe we're almost done with both of them.
No, just one more issue.
Just one more issue apiece. So, what's your rating this one, Connor?
It's a solid 8 for me.
Oh yeah, me too. I already 8. I don't like when we line up, because our scales are so different.
I know.
And it leads more credence to yours when we line up. So yeah, but yeah, Jimmy Olsen 8.
I should 11 actually, Matt. I think I'm fine.
Yeah, I know, but I said the issue is an 8.
Oh, all right. I'll take my dumb joke and go home.
Bye.
Batman: The Smile Killer issue 1, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Andrea Sorrentino. This is our follow-up to Joker Killer Smile, and it is set in the same world, and
yes, and may not be the last of it.
And no, it says the end question mark at the end. The best way I can describe this is by giving you the synopsis to an episode of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Damn it, Matt slapping.
I was gonna yell Scrubs, but I didn't want to yell over Pete. Yeah. So.
Now you don't want to yell over Pete.
Yeah.
Well, because there's an episode of season, I won't get too much into it, but there's an episode of season 6 of Buffy where it tries to convince her that she's been in an asylum the whole time, and all of her actual slaying stuff
you know
is all.
Is particularly frustrating here is you could have been really on brand and gone with the Smallville episode that did this.
Why would I remember the Smallville did this? I didn't know that.
On brand for this show.
I don't remember. I don't even. Is that a later season episode?
It's in like the back half. I don't know exactly how late. He gets rescued by Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, I don't remember any of this crap. Like, no, I don't remember because the show was terrible.
Yeah, how many episodes of that show I remember distinctly.
How does one define a waste of time? Connor watched all 10 seasons of Smallville and remembers them all.
All right, Smile Killer. Man,
Yes.
so I'm just gonna say, I completely whiffed on Connor not reading, because the stuff that I thought he did not read so far.
I read all 3 of those, yeah.
It has to be Plunge.
no.
It has to be Plunge. It's the only thing left.
Yep.
Because he's the worst, even though there's only 2 issues left. But anyway, so the Smile Killer starts off with the idea of a young Bruce Wayne watching this, the character from the first, the story character from the book, from the main story.
Mr. Smiles.
Mr. Smiles, that's it. And basically trying to convince Bruce to stab himself in the eye with a pair of scissors because he did the wrong thing. Really dark stuff.
Yeah.
We sort of come back to that, but I want to say just how gorgeous the pages of Batman meeting up with Gordon look. Like, all that stuff from Sorrentino is...
Oh, so good. You know, those early pages, Joe, I was reminded of when I was reading them as well.
Mm-hmm.
The first season of
Child Zero. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Child Zero. Yeah, it's very Candle Cove. But... yeah, just the gorgeous reds, the bat, even just the awful image of like him getting this like butcher shop and there's like dead bodies in the display, like Joker's like, and Batman's beating himself up because he's failed to stop the Joker again. All wonderful stuff. And he sees this drawing that the Joker's left behind of Mr. Smiles, and it kind of triggers this thing, and we get more of the flashback of like Bruce, and again, how real is this flashback? I would debate given the context of the whole story, but the point being is that in this fake world, or real, depending if you want to argue that this is all going to be true, is
so
this
there's an argument for it.
This memory of Bruce watching the show, which never existed. When Martha takes him to psychiatrist, it's worth mentioning this house that Bruce is in does not look like a mansion. This looks like a normal sized apartment or something like that.
It's absolutely a normal sized house. You can see, like even just stuff like the curtains or the sofa. It's very normal. The carpet.
And in the present day stuff, Batman goes to find the Joker at this TV studio, presumably where this is filmed, this potential show is filmed, and Joker like stabs him with a pair of scissors, notably.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous page as well. Him jumping with a bright light, sort of.
Oh, it's so good.
Blinding Batman. Really good stuff. Did you read this, Matt? You didn't read the main book, did you?
Nope. I
think Matt read the first issue of the other one.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big fan.
But this is where the sort of turn happens, where and it does a little some Joker gas here, which really explains probably why this is just what you probably think it is. But is then Batman is in Arkham and he's in the cell next to the main character from Killer Smile.
Yeah, Ben, I want to say.
Yeah, and it's basically like the idea is that Batman's not real. He's been in this cell in Arkham. The head doctor's Doctor Jim Gordon. Like everything he's believed that he is a lie. And it kind of ties into the twist with the main book was that this guy actually hadn't been with his family in a long time, and that the Joker gets in your head, and Mr. Smiles isn't necessarily a real Joker. It's not a real person, a real entity. It's this sickness, this thing that gets into you. Really interesting sort of tactic to take here, and we get these scenes where Bruce is trying to convince Gordon of who he is and what's going on.
And Gordon's the psychiatrist in this world.
And then he brings in Martha to talk to him, and it's like, no, your parents aren't dead. Here's your mum. She's here to talk to you. And it really tries to convince you. And in fact,
you learn what he did as a kid that got him committed in the first place.
Yeah, he's the one who shot his father. His parents didn't die in an alleyway, he shot him. But this was actually the moment, like, I was already thinking of that Buffy episode, but there's a specific scene in that Buffy episode where the parents come in, and it includes Buffy's dad, who's been gone in the show. Like, he's never been really a factor. But it's that idea that, no, like, even your parental situation is different from what you've been believing it to be in the core story. So, and he's even got like clown makeup on when he shoots his dad.
Yeah, and this is, Mr. Smiles told him to do it.
Yeah, and it's very similar again to what Ben was going to do in the main story. Like when he was going to kill his family, he was wearing clown makeup. So it's really sort of branching them together with this cool like individual idea. And there's a page here where he's in the cell, and it's like completely like it's like a reverse silhouette where he's white and the background's all black. But it's got this like upside down thing as well, where underneath it's like the underworld of it is like what he really thinks he is, which is Batman in the moonlight.
It feels really unsettling because it's on a slant.
Yeah, but what I was going to point out here is the coloring in the Batman half of it, where it's actually not just, I mean, it's kind of silhouette actually. It's like real silhouette as opposed to just like block colors in the top half. But is that the coloring of that looked really Year One to me, very Batman Year One. If you think of like some of the covers to the trades and stuff of Batman Year One, I was getting some serious Year One vibes from that.
We'll just rotate my screen and look at it the right way up. Yeah, I can see what you're looking at.
Yeah, very Year One.
The deep red, and the blacks. Yeah, I can see it.
But basically, he begs Ben, like, hey, no, I was going to say hey, because that's not very Bruce Wayne, especially not a Bruce Wayne in an insane asylum, trying to convince himself that he's not actually crazy. But he says to Ben, look, if this is false, I'm actually starting to doubt who I am, because my whole thing is that I don't doubt that I'm Batman, but I'm starting to doubt it. So if you could just give me a hint, if this is actually all a facade, if this is the Joker behind this, if there's something to this, give me a hint. And he sort of gets it.
He breaks out.
Yeah, he gets the hint. Just enough of his reaction and holding up the Mr. Smiles thing. It's like you can almost see Bruce smiling it, but you can't really. It's just because it's completely black and it's just this, and he's got complete shadow. But you can almost see the smirk, so because he knows, like, no, I'm not crazy. This is the Joker's bullshit. I'm going to get out of this somehow, some way. And he escapes. Yeah, he breaks out. We get the harsh white and black as he jumps out the window, and he's in the rain.
It looks like the sort of image that you'd get in the opening titles for a Bond film.
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I mean the harsh black and white. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That panel of him crashing through.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more Shawshank when he gets out and the rain's hitting him, but
oh yeah. I just meant the silhouette panel.
But the final page, I love this final page because it doesn't give you an answer. He says, "I know who I am," and obviously we want to believe that he's Batman and all that. But he's like, "I'm going to look for a sign," and he looks up into the sky and sees the bat signal, and he smiles and he runs into the night. But then the bottom of the page is we see the same shot again of the sky, but there's no bat signal, and it's like, was he just seeing that, or did it turn off? And it's like, it says the end ? So this doesn't necessarily need to have any more. Like, this could just be a nice ambiguous ending, and we can kind of like take it as it is and have some fun speculating. Like, what if he is just crazy? What if he is just in the asylum?
I think the beautiful thing about this, with it just being a separate Elseworlds, essentially. I know they're not using that term because it's black label.
We always use Elseworlds for these things.
This can be a world without Batman, and Bruce Wayne is completely deluded. That is a complete plausible reading of this particular version. Yeah.
Well, the reason why it works, and the reason why it worked in Buffy, is this idea that, as a coping mechanism, you've created this world where you're a hero, where you're this great central figure who can do anything. And Batman, as Matt will often attest, Batman's too powerful, he can do anything, blah, blah, blah. And this kind of plays on that in a weird meta way, where it's like, what if this is all just the fantasy of you because you can't deal with the fact of what you did as a child? It's just fascinating, and of course the art is gorgeous from start to finish.
Yeah, it's a great read.
Yeah, no, I love this. This was wonderful.
The gorgeous, the widescreen format, as they've been calling it in the Prestige books. I got this physically, and they give it a sewn bounding and everything. Like it's not glued in like most books. Wow. It's really high quality. It was the same with the Green Lantern thing. That was a sewn binding as well.
Interesting. That's a relatively new thing they're doing then for these thicker books.
Prestige ones, yeah.
So no, I I love this. This was fantastic. This was a really great, and the great thing about it is that you don't even need to have read the miniseries to for this to work on its own.
Yeah, I think when this was announced, we thought, oh, this is just a sequel to that in every way, and it is in reality, but it functions really well as a standalone. Because I think we were questioning why not just make this issue 4. Kind of feels a bit shitty in a lot of ways to go, here's a new number 1 for people to pick up because they'll pick it up just because it's a number 1 if they'd missed the previous series. But I think they'll, if those people did pick this up, they'll probably still enjoy this. Maybe not quite as much, but they'll still enjoy it.
Yeah. No, wonderful. What are you giving it?
It's a 8.5 from me.
Am I giving it a 9? I think it's up there. It's stunning to look at, and is a really nice spin on the Batman's psyche, I suppose, to put it that way. So there you go. That is Batman the Smile Killer. So sticking with Black Label, we have 2 Black Label books here. Plunge issue 4, Joe Hill writing with Stuart Immonen on the art. This is. That's making a confused face at me. Why are you making?
Yeah, does Hell House count as Black Label?
I think technically it is.
It does
Black
technically,
Label.
yeah.
It's
really
Black Label is the overall thing, and then Hill House is the specific.
Yeah,
it's like the sub-brand.
Oh man, I never even considered them Black Label.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they say Black Label on them.
Yeah, but it shows how much I pay attention.
Yeah.
Yes, these are
True.
technically Black Label. I mean, I know they're specifically Hell House, but
yeah.
yeah.
That's where I got confused. It's like, what did I forget to read?
It was a fair segue, as much as I hate to give him credit.
No, that's fine. I just, I don't think of them like that. Hell House is its own thing.
Anyway, so this is we had the stone that they all want. The 4 people who go to get it. Only one is alive now because the others were killed for it.
Minus an eye on
Minus
top
an
of
eye,
it.
yes. And we have the Walkman that reads minds and so on. Basically, we get this idea here that these aliens, which are inside these bodies, which see themselves as one entity, not separate people.
Right.
We see it crawling through their eyes and all that, and through their eye sockets. They want basically the humans to go on a dive for them to basically get it's essentially their lifeboat that can take them back out of space. They just want to leave. They claim that they just want to leave, and they'll leave them alone if they do this for them.
So there's an escape hatch, they say, but that escape hatch it's covered with this type of stuff, which then it reminded me of Dollhouse Family, the stuff that could hurt the main creature, right? It's got this weird, like, almost Gaelic or Celtic name, but they can't touch it. That's why they need the humans. And then some of the other people who are really pissed about what they did are like, wait, we just watched them have a crew member, crew members tear each other apart.
Yeah, multiple
basically
murders.
just to show.
Yeah.
Well, why are we going to help them?
And immediately the corporate guy's like, hey, the company will pay a high price for these things you've shown us. This is all great stuff. So of course the other characters are going, are absolutely batshit insane and mad at him for this.
Yeah, he out Paul Reiser.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right? he's out Paul Reisering. You're right. So basically, they give them this kind of offer, and the captain's like, piss off. No way we're ever doing that for you. And ultimately, it's like, we'll give you a day to decide, kind of thing, and we'll let you go back to your boat, because as they established before, there's giant versions, these creatures that are controlling these people, there's the giant ones in the water that can just tear the boat in half, so if they try to flee or leave on the boat, that's it.
Yeah, because they also, the bug creatures, the centipedes, were, basically, they tried to get the captain of the Derleth to do this, and she wouldn't. And that's where they end up sending her adrift. Yeah. Almost so they would, it would bring more attention.
And that ties back into the start of the story, because we saw that the captain adrift separately.
And that we see them infect one of the crew members. It was the doctor on the ship, the nurse, and they try to infect one of the brothers, but it can't. There says that he's unclean. Yeah, because they basically say that, well, if you're not going to do what we want, we might as well make use of you another way. And they infect the doctor, and he's like, no, you're not talking to me anymore. You're talking to us. You're talking to this entity. But yeah, the other guy, like the sort of, he's talking back a lot. He's very angry this issue.
he can't be infected. He spits it back out. He doesn't take. And it turns out later on they talk about the mushroom tea that he made a couple issues ago. It's made whoever drank that like immune to being taken over. So it's a little bit the Thing, a little bit Body Snatchers. There's a bit of all these things.
I love this book, and the fact that Connor's so quiet means this is the book, and I've never been more wrong. So
I mean,
this is the book he dropped. Yeah.
Yeah, I Pete, you say, there's only 2 issues left, but I didn't read this one, so it was 3 issues.
Sure.
So it was halfway for me. It was after not really enjoying the last issue that much, and a combination of that and feeling quite disappointed by the back half of Basket Full of Heads with where that went, made me just feel, and that on top of having 9 other books, one of them being 100 pages this week, I was just like, I'm good.
I mean, that's fair, but this is one of my favorite things I'm reading right now, and it's gonna read so much better in trade.
What's so funny about this to me is that Joe Hill's 2 books are my 2 favorite of the Hill House books still.
Yeah.
Barrows, the one that was that we didn't read at all.
Sure.
The first, they're probably my least favorite ones, weirdly.
Well, that's a taste thing, obviously, but here we are.
But they get back to the ship, and they realize that the stuff that they have that's in the vial is going to be worth a lot.
That was the third gift. That was like this vial of stuff, which turns out that you can find it in like the belt of Jupiter, but you can't find it on Earth. And the corporate guy says you can literally power the entire country for like 100 years with this. This one vial. This would power.
Right. And it's really stable, so they don't have to worry. But if they need to, it will blow up like under the right conditions.
Yeah, because he mentions it's like the most powerful nuke ever potentially in a bottle, and he's like, "Don't drop it." He's like, "No, don't worry, it's completely stable. You'd have to bomb it to turn it into a bomb." Essentially, is what he says.
Yep. And then we get to the captain again. He's like, "No, we got one of these guys." He's like, "What do you mean?" He goes to the body bag for the body that they found.
Yeah, it's the one that was in
fire the ship.
Yeah.
And he basically puts it into a headlock and is like, "All right, you're gonna tell us everything you can," which now means that if they're a hive mind, they're well aware of all this already. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think the most interesting stuff for me, outside of obviously talking about this substance and what they can do with it, is that as soon as they get back to the ship, they're all in agreement. No, we're not doing what they want. We're not because they can just kill us afterwards. We have no idea if they really want to go home or if they actually want to like do something malicious to the planet or us or whatever. But they're all in agreement. We're in a bit of a hard place. We don't know exactly what to do. But I love that they're all in unison, except of course the corporate guy who is the odd one out.
Right.
But I love all that debating. For me, like debating once they're in this situation, like I think issue 2, I think it was the one that felt a bit wacky, and it was it added so much so quick. It was like, man, what's going on in this book? Now that we've got
down.
Yeah, now that we've slowed down, we've got context, and the characters are actually trying to debate what they should do based on what's going on. It's working really well, and I think it's true that this will read even better in trade. Like once you have it all together, and you can just go through it as one story. So
I really enjoy it. Like this is the same feeling I get when I read Brubaker books. Right? They're like, oh yeah, these are all good by themselves as a piece, but when you can sit down and read them all in like almost one sitting, it just makes it flow.
Yeah, because the captain like pulls the corpse out of the body bag, is like talk effer, and the guy like sort of he sort of groans. That's essentially the cliffhanger to the end of the issue, but there is actually one more page, and the reason why I say that page is still the cliffhanger is because this final page doesn't make any sense to us, because it's all in Russian, but it goes to a Russian base, and they're yelling at each other, but they're seeing stuff on the radar, so they're clearly, it's implying that, okay, the Russians
are aware.
Yeah, they're coming. But
because we also got that tidal wave from the first issue.
Yeah.
That really hasn't been explained. And I'm wondering if an explosion that caused from something that they do is what causes that massive tidal wave. And just how it all plays out. But no, I am really enjoying this book. This is definitely my favorite Hell House book.
This is begging for a nice low budget, like straight to Netflix movie adaptation.
Yep. Almost, I don't want to say the lower budget the better, but I don't need this with that sheen. I want it to have a little bit of griminess.
Yeah.
I explained on Twitter as I finished reading this issue, it is a lost John Carpenter movie. Like down to the characters. I feel the captain's Kurt Russell, right? Like,
he kind of
character.
He is. He kind of is.
Yeah. I feel the gruffness there, and just each of the characters. And I did love Basket Full of Heads. It didn't quite stick the landing exactly. I still really enjoyed it. But yeah, so far the Hill House books outside of Daphne Byrne, I have liked all to varying degrees. This one's just really up there. This is exactly my kind of jam. So, yeah.
No,
I guess we should rate it.
Yeah, Immonen's art's still just good. Just to touch on that, I know it's this weird thing where it's been consistent every issue.
When those bugs came out of the dude's mouth,
I know, it looks so good.
I gasped at work, and my coworkers went, "What?" I'm like, "Get something I'm reading. Don't worry about it." Like, I do the same. I've been listening to a show that's an audio drama, and I got to the very last episode, and they revealed something, and I yelled, "Oh, holy shit!" to the other
audio
people.
Drama, you say?
Yeah. It's called side note. It's called The Angel of Vine, and it's produced by Joe Manganiello, and it's a true crime style podcast, but it's a fictional event told through these tapes that a family had found. So the guy that's putting together the podcast,
I got a little bit less interested there when it was the true crime style.
Yeah, so it's done in that style where he's going over the tapes that have been found from this.
So it's all like
50s
interview
PI.
tapes and stuff.
No, so it's a bit of a reach to how they got there. That he had this like portable. He was really into technology. So Joe Manganiello's character is a character named Hank, who's a police detective. He's now he's a private eye. He was always on the Vanguard, so he got like the first like portable recorder that it had this really thin tape that you could put in your watch, and so it's how they always record him. And when he goes to record people,
sure.
But he passes away. He wasn't close with his family. His granddaughter and daughter find the tapes, and they tell this guy who's investigating the Angel of Vine, who's this Black Dahlia-esque. It's about 5 hours. I went through it this entire week at work, but we get to the final where stuff's revealed, and it's just like, oh man, they went places. I really enjoyed it. So people are listening to this at this point if this doesn't get cut. I
just don't want to hear any complaints about the show being long. Between this and the sports talk and the other book, I don't want any complaints.
Oh, sorry for
those things have added
2 minutes in.
A minute of each thing.
Yeah.
Anyway. Rating.
Yeah.
Plunge.
I'm giving this a 9. I really enjoyed it. Slow down a little bit. The art's still top notch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go quite high. I'll give it a solid 8. But I'm liking what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still looking forward to it every month that it comes out. And it's going to be the last book standing from the whole Hill House line because the other one's ending. Speaking of which, The Little Woods, issue 6, Carmen Maria Machado, writing with Dani Strips on the art. Final issue here, and I think this issue suffers a little bit from kind of just rushing through a conclusion, because it feels like the pacing in this is so different to every other issue in this book.
It felt like it needed another issue.
Yeah.
Or 2.
I think it's frustrating because I like everything that is in here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do like all of the beats. I just do feel like we need another issue to pace this out consistently with the rest of the book.
More time for L and V to process this and to make the decision, what they choose to do and how it ends up
even before
Shudder to Think.
Even before we get to that point, though, I have a problem with just how quickly they run into this party and like save the girls and like punch the guys. Like, it feels like a 3-page like action sequence when it feels like there should be some tension of them like sneaking in or like seeing how difficult it's going to be or whatever. But it's just such a almost a nothing moment of them just running in and whacking them.
And then the ultimate resolution of what they end up doing and how they banish almost these people. It's just, this book was so good up to this point, and it's very rushed ending. Because it doesn't quite stick.
I kind of like the idea. I like the idea they have the mushrooms that make you remember. They have the whatever that makes you forget, and they give people choices. They make bottles of like, if you want to forget, you drink this. If you want to remember, you drink this. And they give everyone a choice. And there's like a throwaway line at one point where they say in the narration, like, some people claimed they could tell which women had been, woken up and which ones were still asleep. And I was like, that is a fascinating, like, new status quo to explore. Like, please spend some time on that idea.
It's almost worthy of a sequel idea, almost. Yeah. So maybe, I mean, if it comes out there is a sequel to this book in the works, that would negate at least my concern with that.
That part.
Something as simple as like, do the women who have taken the drug to remember, do they look down on the ones who have chosen to forget? Is there some kind of weird like line that's been drawn there? And then do we do we extrapolate that into like sort of like talking about people who have chosen to speak out about something and those who have not been able to speak out? Like there's a lot of like thematic things and the metaphors you could take from that, which always timely, but super timely in these last couple of weeks with the speaking out movement, specifically in the comics industry. So, I do feel like it rushes through some of this stuff here at the end, and I thought that was a bit of a shame. I felt like I zoomed through this book so quickly, and I was like, oh, well, it's done already. Okay.
Yeah. It is my biggest disappointment because, like I say, I like all of the beats. I don't think there is any moment in this issue that I dislike.
No, I don't like that we didn't get a lot of time with it though. I felt like you're just breezing past things. Like I want to see them go, like Pete was saying, sneak in and how they're going to deal with the boys, because you don't necessarily want a face-on confrontation. So an issue of them sneaking up there, knowing that what they're doing is like the fate of the town rests on them being successful.
Yeah,
right?
Because there's a really dark moment where that one creepy guy from the back from issue 1, the movie theater, where he kind of smells at him and says, "Hey, he says something like, oh, you begged to forget, last time I did this to you," or something like that. It's really sick and icky. But like after that, the guys are kind of gone, and it's the mutilated men who that have been punished, and then the various animals of the women who have transformed. Like it gets to that so quickly that I really wish it was more of a challenge to actually go in and fight in the first place. But so that was kind of that, and then just the rushing through all the ideas from later on is my thing. But I mean, obviously it doesn't betray any of the ideas that it had. It doesn't like step away from anything or make any big missteps in terms of what the story is. It needed more room to breathe. Is the thing.
It's a little frustrating, a little disappointing.
Yeah. No.
Far from the worst ending of anything I've ever read either. So, it's not a damning thing that ruins the book overall.
Yeah, I guess that's not a bad thing when you said it left you wanting more in that way, because you wanted them to decompress. Because nothing's really missing. It's just all slammed together. So
yeah, and there's kind of an ambiguous element to the ending where you don't know which bottle they're taking, because they make a choice between the two bottles, but it purposely hides it in silhouette, and then they're just lying there together, and you don't know if they've chosen to remember everything and go forward with it.
There's an implication, I would say, that they did choose to remember, because they talk about how the bells, where when you're ringing the bells get a rest, and there's this awareness of it.
Well, and they also use the metaphor of the lamps of the slaughter.
Yeah, and then they kind of bring this up at the end after they've taken it.
Yeah, and that was the other part that really hit home with all the real stuff in the world, is when they said that no one in the town was surprised that all these accusations of what happened with the boys came out. They already knew. It was worse. They already knew, and this was just like, oh, they got caught.
It was how they'd been careless. The lesson was not don't do what they did. It was don't get caught.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's still very topical. It's still very hard hitting, and a lot of its themes and what it's doing. But from a story,
you still see all the final page. It pans down underground and shows you all the monsters are still under there.
Yeah,
just under the surface, wait.
Yeah, nothing's gone. Nothing's been fixed or solved. Yeah, which again is very true to form, and that's a fine ending. I just wish I had more time in this last, just to really
Me too.
breathe and
I
delve into
really
these
think
ideas.
Just needed to be 7 issues instead of 6.
Yeah. I think all of the stuff about what happened after they won the fight should have been in issue 7, and the entire encounter of how they won should have been issue 6. But hey, that's the final issue. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this a 8, because again, it's all. I didn't hate anything or dislike. I just, wanted more.
Connor?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5, just because I do like everything that's there. It's just a little rushed.
Yeah. I'm leaning more toward. I'll probably go with a 7. I think still good, still things in there that obviously pay off what we're doing, but I just wish there was some breathing room. So there you go. So that actually was the last book of the week, unless I'm forgetting something, but I don't think I did, because I did last week.
Not this week, yeah.
Which is why I mentioned that, because we had to.
And if you did, I wouldn't say anything. I learned my lesson.
I'm never making that mistake again, Matt. That was, you get that once.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that takes out the part of the show where we pick our favorites of the week, do our favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. So we'll start off with panel / moment, and I'll jump in first because I really want to go with something from Green Lantern. I want to go with something with the Alan Scott story, but it's Mother Shark. Mother Shark. I love that 2-page spread, baby.
Okay.
That's so good.
Do you know what, when Pete jumps in, I always think, it's because he wants to nab the good one first. But
yeah.
Hey, there's tons of good
ones. That's fine. I don't think me and Matt are ever going to pick that.
There's tons of good ones. Suicide Squad that I could have picked too. But all right, Matt, what's your panel / moment?
It's the bugs coming out of that dude's face in Plunge. Again, anything that can elicit a vocal response from me, it's gotta be on here.
All right, Connor.
The final 4 panels of Suicide Squad.
That's totally fair.
Fair enough.
That's totally fair. All right, cover of the week.
Damn it, I didn't look at covers in advance.
Well, I actually just picked mine. I think I'm going with one of the Green Lantern covers. I think it's the Nicholas Scott one with all the Green Lanterns in the rows.
The Legacy.
Yeah, I'm picking that one. It looks so good. And I like the subtle touch that they used the Alan Scott Green Lantern font and logo for the title in that one, because he was first.
Those are the Golden Age covers that they've been using when they put together the Omnis. So that would make sense.
Yeah. So yeah, the Nicholas Scott cover for Green Lantern for me, Matt.
Mine's the Liam Sharp Green Lantern cover. I said it when these first got announced. Whatever cover that is, that's the one I'm gonna get, and I followed through. So that is such a cool, Star Wars-esque, if you will, almost Drew Struzan style poster. It's got everybody represented. So yeah.
All right, Connor.
I'm gonna agree. It's with Matt there. The Green Lantern, the sharp one. Also the cover I got.
Yeah,
cool.
You have good taste for the most part.
I debate Connor's taste, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said for the most part.
Yeah. So, take us on to best art of the week, Matt. What are you going with?
So I had it narrowed down. It was either Plunge or Suicide Squad, and because I gave the one to Plunge for the moment, I'm gonna go with Redondo for Suicide Squad.
Yeah, Suicide Squad was fantastic. Obviously, I liked a lot of stuff in Aquaman. There's some parts of Green Lantern that are great. I have to go with Smile Killer though, Sorrentino. There's no question for me. Even with all the other good art, there was no question. I had to be that. Connor?
No, I get that, because for me it is down to Smile Killer or Suicide Squad. Those are the two that are rising to the top. And there is good art. Lolo Woods, Jimmy Olsen, for example, let's take out as some really solid art this week. I think I'll give it to Suicide Squad, I think, just for the pacing more than anything of it. But it's close between those two.
Yeah. All right, top 5 books of the week, Matt. Hit us with it.
So I'm gonna go number 1, Suicide Squad. Number 2, Plunge. Number 3, I'm trying to remember the rest of them now.
So many.
Yeah. Number 3, I'll give Aquaman. Number 4, Justice League Dark. And that leaves 5. 5 I'll do... What do I give Jimmy? Did I give Jimmy an 8? Yeah, we'll say it. Jimmy, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 5.
All right, Connor.
So 1 is Suicide Squad. 2, Smile Killer. 3, Justice League Dark. 4, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, and 5, Aquaman.
I'm going to go with number 1, Smile Killer. Number 2, Suicide Squad. Number 3, Plunge. Number 4, Aquaman. Number 5, Green Lantern.
Another thing about it, I remember I gave Green Lantern. So I'm gonna move Green Lantern to 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you type that in, let me that one because I remember I gave that one a high score too.
Sure.
So
There you go.
That was potential. It was that or Aquaman for me at the 5 spot.
Yeah.
That's fair. Obviously there's stories in Green Lantern that I'd rank higher than a couple of the ones that I put above the overall book, but obviously you have to average it out. Yeah. So there you go. That is our picks for the week. Now, normally here I would tell you what's coming next week. I'll do it from memory. Supergirl 42 is out digitally.
Do you not want to tell them what's out for the next episode still?
Actually, I could do that. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. Let's do that. So
there's no other.
I'll just reiterate as I'm getting that up. There'll be no episode next week. We're taking 1 week off because there's no books. Supergirl 42 is out digitally. Me and Matt will still talk about that. We'll just do it in the next, the next episode.
These are the books releasing on the 7th of July now.
Yeah, so we're going to tell you what's coming. Not this Tuesday.
Almost like they're making up for it.
Following Tuesday.
Oh, they're not ready. Oh God.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Good.
All right, read them out, Pete.
Yes, I'm on the page. Okay. Right. So coming that week, we have Batman 94. That's actually kind of weird that we're going from Batman this episode and then we're going to have one next episode, but whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it is still 2 weeks, but whatever. Detective Comics 1023, The Flash 757, Wonder Woman 758, which I believe is the first issue. No?
No,
nope,
it's still saying Orlando for me.
Oh, 759 must be the first one then. I knew it was... Okay, well, this is the last one that we're not reading. Alright, Tamaki's in after that. Justice League 48 is out. Superman 23, Harley Quinn 74, Justice League Odyssey 22, that's still going, man. Batman's Grave, issue 8, Lois Lane 12, Green Lantern Season 2, issue 5, maybe Connor will catch up. Hawkman 25, Batman The Outsiders, number 14, Deceased Dead Planet, number 1, and that's it. So,
also Young Justice.
Yeah, Young Justice.
Sorry, it's in the Wonder Comics section. I don't have it on my list.
And also, just I know you didn't mention it because it's Young Animal, but Doom Patrol: Weight of the Worlds issue 7 is finally coming out.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's when I said because I had clicked Young Animal because I saw it there and went, oh no, is there a Far Sector coming out?
Far Sector as well.
Yeah. So it's not as bad as I thought, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, it's not as bad
because
there's still about 10 books I think we're covering.
There's a whole batch of stuff that I mentioned there though that we don't cover, so it's not as bad as it remotely sounds.
Yeah, there's 10 books that we're going to cover, plus Supergirl, so 11.
3, 4.
I might just jump Justice League. Just save time.
5.
I get that.
6,
I get that.
8.
Pete doesn't trust my counting apparently.
No, I don't. That's about 10. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Cy Spurrier stuff. For Justice League.
I'll give it a shot. I'm not going to just ignore it.
Have fun. I have way too much else to read.
I'll at least give it an issue and see if it's worth reading the arc. Which obviously takes us up to Williamson's Tynion arc to Metal.
I think this is that's not true. This is a 3-part arc, and then we've got the 2-part Jeff Loveness.
Oh sure, okay, right, fine.
That takes us.
All right, sure, great. All right, there you go. That is what's coming. So not next week. We'll do no episode next week because there's no books out. But then the following week, Supergirl will get thrown into the list, and that's the books we'll be looking at. So, so I should tell you here about a couple of things. Tell you about Patreon. Tell you about our Patreon producers. We'll thank them first of all. So thank you to Alison M. Fordyce, Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, and Zammer Jammer. They are all patrons at $20 or above, and that is why they're credited as producers. But you can, of course, support us for as little as $1 per month, and for that $1, you get a bunch of bonuses for various Mailing Plus TV content. $5 tier is probably the most relevant note for comic book people, because you get early access to all the Comics for the Multiverse episodes, and previously in the Multiverse, by 1 day, plus whenever there's a vote for previously, that's also the $5 tier. So have a look and see if you're interested in keeping all the content coming. You can also support us for free by doing something as simple as liking on YouTube, commenting, let us know what you think. Liking is really important. It lets the algorithm know that you think we're worth recommending out, so more people will find us. So it's a really good way to help. You can, of course, get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast for updates and shenanigans and all the rest of it. And, of course, go and check out the Comics from the Multiverse YouTube channel, where you get the individual cut-up versions of the episodes as well as previously. And going forward, it's actually going to be the exclusive home of previously for YouTube. The audio is still the same, but the video versions will be on that channel. It's still catching up right now, but it's getting closer and closer. So go and have a look and have a look at that. So otherwise, though, that is us. That is everything I think I need to tell you about. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
And just try to be a good person. It's not hard.